City Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Yes, Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin. Here. Alderman Ravel.
Here.
Alderman Rainey.
Here.
Alderman Fleming. Alderman Fisk. Alderman Braithwaite.
Here.
Alderman Nguyen.
Here.
And we have a quorum.
Great. Thank you, Clerk Reed. We expect that Alderman Fleming and Alderman Fisk weren't here for roll call, will be joining. Alderman Wilson, could you move a motion that we have this meeting virtually?
Yes, I move that we suspend the rules to allow us to conduct the meeting utilizing the Zoom software in lieu of an in-person meeting in conformance with the governor's prior directives related to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Second.
All right. Seeing no discussion, Clerk Reed, could you please take the roll on that motion?
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin.
Aye.
Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
And Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
All right, so on a 7-0 vote, that motion passes to have this meeting virtually, and that is due to the fact that we are still in a pandemic. New year, same pandemic. Hopefully, we're going to get out of that in 2021. I think there's lots of good that's going to come this year, including getting this vaccine distributed. Welcome everybody to the January 11th. 2021 Evanston City Council meeting. This is our first meeting of the new year. I hope everyone enjoyed the holidays, and I hope our year only gets better after the events last Wednesday in Washington, D.C. A lot has occurred since we last met on Monday, December 14th. I had a colonoscopy. I mentioned it because I put it off for 2 years, and I'm not alone. A big shout out to Matt Rogers, an Evanston resident and colon cancer survivor who speaks at council every year about the importance of getting colonoscopies. I want everyone to please take good care of yourselves, particularly at a time when too many of us are neglecting preventative care because of the pandemic. Second, a big congratulations to the Northwestern Wildcats who defeaed the Auburn Tigers 35-19 in the Citrus Bowl. It was very exciting. Big congratulations to Jim Phillips, who is Northwestern's athletic director, has been for many years, about 13 years, who was just named the commissioner of the ACC. A big job, and what a way to leave Evanston, Dr. Phillips. So all the best. Sadly, since we last met, more losses have occurred, including more fatalities due to the pandemic and the loss of housing. I'll give a COVID-19 update shortly, but I did want to recognize all the residents in this community. I wanted to recognize all that residents in this community are doing to help one another. In November, I joined with the Evanston Community Foundation and asked residents to dig deep and give generously to the COVID-19 Emergency Response Fund, helping us raise $2 million in 2 months. I am pleased to report this evening that the foundation has raised $1.9 million. So we didn't quite hit the $2 million, but if you didn't give to that fund or you want to give again, $50,000 more will allow the foundation to get to the entire $1 million match, bringing the total the foundation will invest in Evanston to over $6 million to help families and organizations with food, shelter, and other essential assistance. Lots of the food pantries that you see around here, some of the work done by Connections for the Homeless and Interfaith Action are funded through our contributions to the Evanston Community Foundation. I want to thank everyone because it was literally thousands of people that gave to support others here in our community. Speaking of helping people during the holidays, just a big shout out to all the organizations who help brighten the holidays, whether it be with food, toys, or other assistance. I know there were many organizations, including within the faith community, our business community, the chessmen and other nonprofits, our Parks and Recs department via the Mayor's Holiday Food Book and Toy Drive, who made the holidays a little easier. So thank you to everyone for that. I want to talk just a second about restaurants. Without a pandemic, January and February are two of the most difficult months for restaurants. We're still in the midst of the pandemic. I want to ask everyone, if you have the means, please do carry out from our restaurants. Help them weather this. We just need to make it, I think, another 6 months or so until we start to see things turn. But it's hard, and it's particularly hard here in Chicago when it's cold and you can't dine outside. So please help us all continue to support our small business owners and our restaurants here in Evanston. One of the nice things about being an alderman or the mayor of Evanston is you get to meet many amazing people, whether they be residents or employees who love this city. One of those people is Jerron Dorsey. Jerron is a program manager at Fleetwood Jourdain, who at the end of every year helps manage the Mayor's Holiday Food, Toy, and Book Drive. I first met Jerron a few years back, and it's clear that this is a young man who loves Evanston and wants to help people in our community, particularly young people in our community. I wanted to take a moment and recognize Jerron this evening, not for the great job that he and his team did this year with the holiday drive that helped over 450 families, but rather for what he did quietly, but was picked up by the press and ought to be a reminder to all of us that we can always dig a little deeper to help others in need. So Jerron is with us. I asked if he would join us, and I asked if he would just share his story. And let me just start by saying Jerron is a modest man, and and I know he struggled about whether to share this, and he ultimately thought, like, I'm going to share this, and it was. But I want people to hear, and I just want you to know how inspiring it is to all of us. Jerron, so welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, Clerk Reed, members of the City Council. Thanks for having me tonight. Truly is an honor to be recognized for something that truly I do on a day-to-day basis, just having to get picked up. And I'm really excited that I eventually, after struggling with if I would let it go public or not, I'm happy that I did, because it has inspired so many people across the world. I've talked to people from maybe 17 different states who literally haunted me down to share emails and inspirational words to me. And it actually inspired me to know that something that I've been truly dedicated to my entire life. I was taught this as a young kid growing up. I mean, from, when we used to prepare meals at home, and we ate first and then the whole neighborhood ate. So, I mean, I truly got the giving heart from my mom and my granny. So I give them a lot of credit for that. I would like to say this recognition has been great, but I would truly like to recognize Jordan, who is my hero. Jordan, who I've had the chance today to spend an entire day with at the Fleetwood Jourdain facility. He's actually a part of my program now since I've connected with his family. And Jordan is truly an amazing kid, and he's a hero. He saved his family's life, and he reacted quick to be a 9-year-old kid. So the recognition really goes to Jordan for doing such a heroic thing in a split second, and he actually saved his family member's life. I think
so give us just Jerron, just give us a little background, because not everybody that's watching knows what it is that you did and what happened with the Jackson family.
Absolutely. So I'm sure a lot of you have heard the Jackson family was in a house fire 2 days before Christmas, and they lost literally everything in their home 2 days before Christmas, which was a very, very sad story. And once I read that story, I woke up that morning with a lot of emotions for personal family reasons. I woke up, this is just a bad day for my family on New Year's Eve. And it's just typical for me to check my emails as soon as I wake up. It's just a habit that I have. And I read a news article a newsletter from Dear Evanston that referred to the Jackson family, who I had previous knowledge of this fire. but I did not know any details about it. So I was able to help initially, but after reading the story, it literally took me into a deep state of emotion. And so it just came to my heart that this family has sacrificed so much, losing everything 2 days before Christmas after a very tough year that we've all already had. And so I just asked myself, what can you sacrifice for this family? And it just, my check was the thing that came to mind. I didn't second guess that thought. And I wanted to get it to this family within a 24-hour period. It's a funny story that I tell. I told the family that I'll give them my paycheck, and I didn't even get paid the next day. So it was a funny story that we all laughed about. But I'm a big man that I keep my word. So if I already came out and said that I was going to do with this family, I had to do anything possible to make that happen and pay myself back when I got paid. So that was great. And from then it's just turned into a wonderful relationship with this family. I have constant contact with this family every day. I've actually was excited to help them move into their new home. That's in the 8th ward now, I believe, or the 9th. I'm not good with wards. But yes, so it was a wonderful experience. And I just want to thank the Evanston community because this story went public, and so that a lot of people are giving me the recognition. But I mean, Evanston really showed up for this family, man. And so I truly appreciate Evanston, and I truly appreciate everyone that's reached out to me with inspiring, encouraging words. And I'm truly committed to this work for the rest of my life. So I thank you all for having me today, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Jerron. I wanted to take a minute and recognize Jerron this evening, not for the great job that he, I know this happens a lot in Evanston, but I asked Jerron and wanted to recognize him because it's an inspiring story for all of us to keep in mind as we look to begin what appears to be another difficult year in America. So thank you, Jerron. Stick around because we do have a speaker that signed up, Myra Jackson, and I am going to move Myra to the top of the list. Okay, so I'm going to ask her to speak first in public comment.
Can I say one quick thing? This is Alderman Fleming.
Yes.
I want to obviously congratulate and thank Jerron. He's a family member of mine. We couldn't be prouder of him. Also for the young man who saved his family. I didn't know that part about the story, but I also just want to give a public recognition to Reba Place that stepped in and provided this family with housing. Reba has a slew of affordable housing they've had for decades, and they stepped in with Resident Dan Coyne's help, this family housed right away so that we, as Jerron said, the community really stepped up here. But thank you so much, Jerron. So proud of everything you do, particularly the things we will never know about in serving our community over at Fleetwood and all around. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Alderman Fleming.
Thank you, Alderman Fleming. Next up, before I give a quick COVID-19 update, I can't let this meeting go by without expressing, on behalf of the entire city, our condolences to an Evanston family who tragically lost a loved one in Saturday's horrific shooting spree that occurred in Chicago and Evanston. This incident has received nationwide coverage, so I'm not going to go into the details, other than to say I am so appreciative of the bravery shown by the entire Evanston Police Department, particularly the officers on the front line who put their lives at risk to mobilize an offender who had killed at least 3 people and severely injured 4 others. There's lots we still don't know about the events of Saturday, but we do know that if not for the brave actions of the Evanston and Chicago police, many more innocent lives could have been lost. Before I move on to the COVID-19 vaccine update, I did want to give our police chief, who's been on the front lines of this incident, a minute just to talk with us. Chief Cook, are you with us?
Yes, sir, Mayor, I'm here.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me the time. Good evening, Alderman, City Manager Storley, and Mayor Haggerty. This situation, just Friday, January 8th, the Evanston Police Department received federal certification from the Department of Justice with our use of force policy. So with that being done through the Illinois Law Enforcement Accreditation Program, this comes in handy when we have these type of incidents. This was the most horrific deal that I've been in 41 years of law enforcement. We did lose one of our valued residents here. It is a national event. We've been working with the FBI, ATF, Chicago Police Department in order to try to bring some resolution to many of the horrific crimes that transpired over the weekend in the city of Chicago and also in the city of Evanston. The evidence shows how horrific this incident was, and it really shows, in light of that evidence, what a great job these police officers did in the face of that type of danger at Howard and Weston in the early evening hours, when many of our residents are out shopping, getting food for their families and things of that nature. So we're working diligently to bring resolution and understanding to this situation so that we'll know how to mitigate these type of things better in the future. Anything we do as law enforcement officers, there's always something that we could do a little better, and we're gonna analyze what we did. And again, I wanna publicly acknowledge the police officers that were involved in this. I've had conversation with them. They're all in good spirits. We do plan to have psychological services available to members of the police department, and we're working toward that now. So as we move forward in this investigation, I surely will keep you all updated on the progress.
Thank you, Chief. And Alderman Rainey, I just wanted, if you wanted the floor for a minute, I'll give you the floor, as this I know happened in your ward.
It did, and those involved were very much part of my ward also. I just want to say that, you know, the officers involved in bringing down the perpetrator are, you know, so much in my heart, and their families as well. But I want to also mention, you know, from the very beginning, the people in CVS who called the dispatch, those dispatchers were going crazy, calling, you know, reporting what was going on. They were receiving calls from Chicago and from Evanston. People heard, you know, watched 15, 20 squad cars. They heard shots being fired. They didn't know where they were coming from. The firefighters, the paramedics that came on the scene saw horrible things, and they had to deal with them, just horrible things. So it was all sorts of people that were involved in this. And the chief is right. This, you know, in his 40 years, he never saw anything like this, he told me, and he just told you that. I was told tonight by a constituent that this was one of the most read stories in the New York Times. And you don't want to be notorious in that way. But this was a shocking situation that stunned everybody, that came on the heels of what went on in Washington this week. And so everybody, please reach out and be kind to your neighbor. You never know what's going to happen. And that is an intersection that all of us in the South End and many of you visit on a very regular basis. It could have been any one of us. And if our police officers hadn't put a stop to this rampage, there could have been many double digits could have been eliminated from our lives that night. So thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey. We're now going to turn to a COVID-19 update. As I mentioned, new year, same pandemic. Good news is there's a vaccine now. the majority of questions that our public health department is getting is related to vaccines. I just wanted to give a quick overview for folks. There are 3 phases right now for the vaccine distribution: phase 1A, 1B, and 1C. We are in phase 1A right now. The state of Illinois, IDPH, is controlling those phases. It's not as if they have sent us 75,000 doses and said, okay, Evanston, you figure it out and get people vaccinated. They are sending us doses, but there are certain amounts that they are giving us. I'm going to go over that for everyone so you know where we stand with that. Right now, again, we are in phase 1A. 1A is all of the healthcare workers. Frontline healthcare workers are first in line. And so from December 17th, which was the first day that we received doses here in Evanston, to January 11th, which is today, the city has received 5,225 doses of both the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines. 4,125 of those vaccines have been distributed to the hospitals and to our healthcare workers. That leaves 1,100 that are remaining. Of the 1,100 that are remaining, on January 7th, the city held an event for non-hospital affiliated healthcare workers. And we had close to 280 healthcare workers in this group that were vaccinated. Today, we are hosting today we hosted an event for non-hospital affiliated healthcare workers at the Levy Center from 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. for 600 healthcare workers have registered. We hope to host another event this Thursday to complete the first round of doses for those in Group 1A. We also, and I missed this, but we also held an event. This was our first vaccination on December 31st at the Levy Center for our paramedics. So we had 70 paramedics and first responders that were vaccinated. When we get to phase B, 1B, and again, the hospitals will, the state will determine that. The first in that group to be vaccinated will be the firefighters, our police officers, our 311 dispatchers, security officers, and other essential employees, city employees that we have that keep our government running. We have a survey that we have put out there. You can find this survey on our website, and I'm going to turn it over to our health department director, Ike Ogbo, in a second. But we have a vaccination survey. We are asking everyone in the community to complete that survey. We have also asked through the mayor's pandemic task force that all the different organizations that are affiliated with that get these out to different communities within Evanston. So far, we have close to 15,000 people that have registered through the vaccination survey. We definitely need more people to register, and we will be pushing this a lot. There's going to be a lot of information coming out this month about vaccinations. I want to be very clear, though, that we are going to work hard to manage people's expectations. I do not want to overpromise and tell everybody you're getting vaccinated by the end of this month. There's a process and a procedure, and I believe we will also see come January 20th, when the new administration takes over, we may see changes at the federal level, which will impact us here at the local level. So we are taking this sort of phase by phase, and so I just want everybody to be clear about that. We are working and will be working to create a dashboard that is similar to what we have for COVID-19 to track numbers of those various groups who have been vaccinated on a weekly basis, so that we can provide our residents with insight into how many people have been vaccinated, how many more do we think we have in these different categories, so you can get a sense. But again, this is going to take some time to put that together, but it'll be similar to the dashboard that we've put together that says, you know, how many COVID cases we have, how many fatalities, how many folks have COVID at this very moment here in our city. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our public health director, who needs no introduction now. You might have a year ago, Ike, but everybody knows who you are now, to Ike Ogbo, who he and his team really, I think, have done a fantastic job of keeping us as safe as possible and informed here in Evanston. So welcome, Ike. Ike, first off, is there anything that I failed to mention that I should have mentioned with what's going on with phase 1A or 1B?
Absolutely. So currently we are in phase 1A, as you indicated, Mayor. We are planning to complete phase 1A actually by next week. The event that we proposed for Thursday will be moved till Monday. And as you perhaps know, the availability of vaccines come from the state. And sometimes it's hard to predict when those vaccines are going to come. So, but we are hoping to get a shipment of vaccines sometime late this week for an event next week. That event will actually happen on Tuesday, since Monday is a holiday, and it will be for a number of healthcare workers whom we weren't able to get today during our vaccination event. 1B, we are really hoping, which comprises of essential workers, we are hoping that we will start vaccinating soon. I do not want to promise anything at this point. We are receiving instructions from the state on how to advance into various tiers. But we are hoping that soon we'll be vaccinating those who are in 1B. And that's why it's essential, it's very important for our residents to complete that vaccination survey form that you mentioned, so that we can get a tally or gauge of how many individuals are interested in receiving the vaccines. But individuals should stay tuned. Our communications will be via website, social media, email. So just stay tuned in regards to where we are in the tier system.
I know a lot of people are thinking, well, can't I just go to my doctor or go to the Minute Clinic and get this vaccine? So can you talk a little about how this is going to unfold, to the extent that we have a good understanding? Is it going to be at points of distribution and we're all going to go to the high school or some other facility at a certain date and time and get vaccinated? Or are we going to, is this vaccine and the doses going to be pushed through the medical network out there and doctors and offices?
Well, eventually there will be an ample supply of vaccines that individuals can access through their medical providers and hospitals. But due to the limited supply of the vaccines are being pushed through the local health departments. Our local health department is a certified health department where we are able to receive these vaccines and set up vaccination sites to vaccinate our essential workers and eventually the masses, so to speak. But when vaccines become available, you'll be able to go to your local CVS, Walgreens, your hospital to receive the vaccines. Right now, vaccines are limited, and that's why we are portioning them based on priority groups. And that's why we have the 3 priority groups at this point. When we are done with that, then we can move into phase 2, where we will have the capacity to vaccinate the masses.
In phase 2, but talk about phase 1B. So phase 1B will be next. Who will be in phase 1B? Who is in that camp?
So phase 1B will be our frontline critical workers, firefighters, the police, the 311 dispatchers, school teachers, grocery store individuals, people who work in the grocery stores, individuals who are in the manufacturing industry, those who are 75 and above. Even our congregate home settings are also included in phase 1B.
All right. So there's a lot of people in 1B. That's a big group.
Absolutely. So the way that we actually structured our vaccination plan is to take a look at various groups and at that point decide which groups are going to be vaccinated on a weekly basis. And we have to keep in mind how many vaccines that we get on a weekly basis. So that's why it is important for our residents and those who work in Evanston to be mindful of that and cognizant that they might be expected to get vaccinated at a certain point in time, but we might not have the vaccines to get them. So everyone should exercise patience as we go through this process.
Where do people fill out the survey if they haven't filled out the survey? Like, where can they find that?
You can go on our website. It is there. We have a vaccination page on our COVID page where they can actually fill this form out.
Should they, I mean, this is really my family, right? I have a 12-year-old, I have a 17-year-old. Some of these vaccines right now say you have to be 18 or older to take it or 16 and older to take it. Should I be completing this for everybody in my household or just those over a certain age?
So right now, although we know there's no vaccine yet for those who are 16 years, those who are under 16 years of age, but we're hoping to gather as much information as possible so that when a vaccine is eventually developed for those individuals, that we'll have that data in the tip of our hands.
Okay.
So everyone at this point is encouraged to complete.
So right now, everyone, regardless of the age of people in your household, you should complete a survey. Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to open it up if there's any pressing questions that our aldermen have. Again, this is going to be a topic of conversation going forward. Alderman Fleming.
Yeah, Ike, so you mentioned in the 1B is 75 and over. I believe that the county and
65 and over. 65.
Okay, thank you. So clarify, 65 and over.
65 and, yeah, that was just clarified. Actually, they just put that in the rule, so to speak, just maybe about a week ago. So we actually had to revise our plans to include 65 and older in 1B. And thank you for the correction. You're right, they're 65 and over.
Okay, then my other question is that the vaccines you mentioned, people who live or work in Evanston. So if we have Evanston staff who maybe work in one of these areas that would be under 1A or 1B, who work in Skokie, are they eligible to go to another health department and get their vaccine if they work somewhere else?
Absolutely. I mean, if they live in Cook County, so to speak, and work in Evanston, they can definitely get their vaccines in Cook County. But what we are looking at here is to reduce the disease burden in Evanston. So that's why we've opened it up to those who live and work in Evanston. But if someone who lives outside Evanston wants to get a vaccine, let's say, for example, in Skokie, they're open to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Wilson.
Thanks. And with regard to this survey specifically, actually somebody reached out to me today and they asked this question, but in case it's on anybody's mind, basically the question was who's going to use the data? And I think that they wanted to be reassured or assured that the data is not going to be used for any other purposes or, otherwise utilized for anything other than this specific purpose. Can you just kind of share a little bit about that so people are comfortable?
Right, absolutely. And I understand that this might be a concern for many people. The survey that we use is actually HIPAA compliant. The only individuals who get a hold of this data or people who work in the health department. And no non-public health agency will be privy to this information. And the reason, of course, why we need this information, as you perhaps know, there are 2 doses for both vaccine. So it helps us track how many doses an individual has taken. So it will just be in the hands of those who work in the health department, who work on our vaccine team, that will be privy to this information.
Okay, thanks. I'll probably just direct them to you if they have anything further on that. Thank you.
All right. Any other pressing questions for Ike? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Ike. I am going to give a quick update, so feel free to just stay on for this part in case I misstate anything. Real quick, where we stand on the pandemic right now in Evanston, we have 3,335 total cases. Sadly, today we had 2 more deaths of COVID-19. That brings our total deaths or fatalities in Evanston to 100 residents who have passed away. Today we had 18 new cases. Our 7-day moving average is 25 cases a day. That is coming down. If you looked at it from, a month ago, we were close to 30 or so. So that's come down a little. What's really come down significantly, and this is really positive, is the positivity rate. The 7-day positivity rate in Evanston as of today is 2.04%. So that's really good. If you remember back this summer, we were around 1 to 1.5%. We hovered. So that is good news. That positivity rate affects, our ability to reopen things. Again, we're not a silo here. We're in a region. We have to look at the regional metrics. We are in Region 10, suburban Cook County. That positivity rate is 10%. Again, so we're significantly lower than that, but that's still above the 8% threshold that the schools have set to try and get kids back into school. In terms of hospitalizations, obviously they're up some, but we have capacity here in the Evanston area, both with medical beds and ICU units. So that's a positive. Public health officials are concerned over the next week or two to see where the numbers go, just because of the holidays, New Year's holiday, and all of that. Overall, the state numbers, though, have really dropped considerably due to the mitigation measures that we put in place right around Thanksgiving or right before Thanksgiving. So that's a quick update on the statistics. Lastly, I just want to say a few words about what's going on in Washington, D.C. Despite the insurrection that occurred last Wednesday, and all of those involved, including the president, should be held to account, I feel positive about 2021. Congress did approve a $900 billion aid package that offers aid to families and workers and businesses most impacted by the pandemic and provides funds to help state and local governments with the distribution of the vaccine. That's a big positive. While the aid package did not include any direct assistance to local governments, the Democrat senatorial win in Georgia bodes well for another aid package that also includes assistance to state and local governments. So I see that as a positive for 2020. Obviously, come January 20th, next week, we will have a new president of the United States and a new vice president of this country, and I expect a better functioning federal government will benefit all of us. Despite the fact that the vaccine distribution is not moving as quickly as promised or people thought it would, I anticipate that we will see this significantly pick up in the next month or so. So please be patient. I have been on a call with the White House this week. It was a briefing to all the mayors across the country and others. And I just walked away feeling better about what's to come with the distribution. Once we have made significant progress on the vaccine distribution, the economy will begin to pick up. Due to the significant savings rates, many economists believe that the economy will pick up very quickly, providing jobs, employment, income to many more, particularly those in the hard-hit service area. If we continue to work effectively together at the local level and with strong leadership from Washington, I think we could be pleasantly surprised at all we accomplish in 2021. I know there was a lot under mayor announcements today. A lot has been going on, as we all know, and we haven't met since December. So I wanted to cover all of those. So thank you for being patient. We're now going to move to the city manager for any city manager announcements. Welcome, Erica.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have one announcement this evening. It's with great sadness, but also great enthusiasm for the future of our Fire Chief, Brian Scott, that I announced his retirement from the Evanston Fire Department effective on Friday. So this has been announced in the past month, and I just wanted to take a few minutes to express my appreciation for Chief Scott. Almost all of you in the community know him to be just a very, very good person, and not just a good person, but an innovative leader. And over the course of his time at the Evanston Police Department, I've seen him do very creative things, working very hard on the initiatives that we've set for him to move the goal on progress towards making sure that our fire department reflects our community, and that we give opportunities to people who want to have an opportunity to work in the fire department. It's a very challenging task because historically it hasn't been like that, but Chief Scott has taken that as his personal challenge and has really laid a foundation and really helped to change some laws that are going to make it easier for people in our community to obtain employment in the fire department in the future. And so I'm very excited about that. And we may not see the most immediate results from that, but we'll see those over time. And that is very encouraging to me because he takes that very personally and very passionately. So not just a good person and a good friend, but a very creative leader, always willing to do what needs to be done and to never complain. And his leadership on our response to the pandemic has been simply astounding. And he's a quiet leader when it comes to the pandemic. He's not the first face you see. It's often Ike, but he is an integral part of our overall team that has been basically meeting nonstop since March of last year. So we're really going to miss him and his really thoughtful and good, solid organizational leadership as we continue to fight the pandemic. He's going to go to another department, so I'm very happy for him and his family, and I wish him nothing but the best. And I appreciate everything that you've done, Chief Scott. And I wish I could be there to give you your handshake and your plaque in person, but perhaps another time when all is well. So with that, if you have any words you would like to say, please go ahead, and then I'll open it up to the council.
City Manager Storley, Mayor Haggerty, members of the City Council, Clerk Reed, Erica, thank you so much for the kind words. It's been a distinct honor to work with and lead the men and women of the Evanston Fire Department, and certainly been an honor to be part of your management team, Erica. And coupled with that, over the last 10 months, it's been a distinct pleasure to be part of the overall crisis management team for the city as we have leaned forward to help with the city's response in dealing with the pandemic. To see the city staff to come together in that way during the crisis and show how effective they are and how hard they work. And I'm not the only one not complaining. So many folks working so hard, so diligently in really tough circumstances, both personally and professionally, as they manage the crisis, was really something to behold, and I'll never forget it. And I also want to thank this council because, as we all know, over my 21 years with the department and the last 4 years as your fire chief, that we have a world-class fire department here in Evanston, but that doesn't happen without the support of the elected officials. And on so many occasions, you've had to make such difficult decisions with ever-increasing financial constraints placed upon the council. And each and every time you ultimately supported the department and supported that world-class service that we deliver to a fantastic community. So I want to thank you for that. And lastly, this thank you, as Erica had mentioned, about supporting those important community engagement initiatives, like the ECHO program, like the apprenticeship program, like our Explorer program. Those things are so important as we try to be an outward-looking organization and kind of really connect with our community, because I think that we want to be as much a part of the fabric of community as much as possible. I think we do a much better job when we do that. So thank you again. And I will very much miss being part of the Evanston Fire Department and part of the city staff. And I wish you all nothing but the best in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief Scott. Would anybody else like to talk?
Yeah, we'll go with Alderman Wilson, then Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Thank you. City Manager Storley, I think covered almost everything, but it was all true. And I'm going to miss you, and we're going to miss you. And I just hope that our community recognizes how well protected and how well served we are by our police department and by our fire departments. Both of these departments, you heard about the police department earlier, but the fire department is always looking forward and always being proactive in figuring out how to better serve our community. They never stop. They never come to us and say, we're where we need to be. They are always putting the service to our community first in the conversations. And you as a leader have continued that tradition and advanced that. And I'm very grateful for that. In addition to just being a really terrific and stand-up human being that I've been honored to work with. And I appreciate all of your efforts, and I'm excited for you for your future. So thank you, Chief Scott.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Thank you, Chief Scott. Just thank you for everything, your professionalism. Particularly, thank you for your commitment to diversity in your team, making sure that there is more space for people of color and women on the team as well as in leadership. Greatly appreciate having worked with you. Your professionalism, the leadership that you have provided has just been incredible. I can't say enough about it. Thank you. It's been a pleasure to work with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderman Nguyen, and then Braithwaite.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief Scott, I want to add to the accolades from my colleagues. Your professionalism has been top notch, and I have always appreciated that. And I've also always appreciated the humanity that you've brought to your job. It comes through, and I think that is really what has made you a particularly fine leader and a representative to the council of our fire department. And your vision, as Alderman Ruth Simmons said, and our city manager have said, you are looking forward. And so you have always maintained these high standards that we all take for granted, a little too often, but you are also looking forward and setting high standards going ahead. And on behalf of the 3rd Ward, I want to thank you and your team for what you did at 1249 Judson 2 days before Christmas. That we are so lucky for that there was no loss of life and that our fire department was there so quickly. That's a big apartment building, and your team was there and really did their job just beautifully again. So thank you. I wish you the best, and we will miss you.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderman Braithwaite.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief Scott, again, thank you so much for your years of service on behalf of all the residents of the 2nd Ward. You have been responsive and available when I've needed you the most. And I think it was 2 years ago during the budget season when the former city manager tried to close a fire station. You were very honest during that whole process and fair, not only to your men, but also to our town. So I want to thank you very much for your advocacy there. You did an amazing job filling Greg Kleiberg's seat. The transition was seamless. And I pray that the person who comes behind you is able to do the same thing. Lastly, I just have to call out, I think, your attention to our local initiatives. Alderman Simmons said it, and I'll echo it, from your apprentice program, following up with that, the Explorer program, your advocacy downstate inspired our committee to pass or expand our support to our local residents who now can get support for taking that fireman's test. And I don't know if there's a municipality in this state that's doing that. So for future residents who will take that test and hopefully have a advantage of getting on our fire department, which is a wonderful career for anyone, we owe that based on your leadership. So I wish you and your family well in your new role. And you always have a friend that you can call if you ever need one. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Alderman Braithwaite. All right, seeing no others. Chief, this is a tough one. I don't want you to leave. I don't think any of us want you to leave, but we want the best for you and your family. There's many reasons that I think our city is, again, on comparative metrics and everything, doing well on the pandemic. And part of that is your leadership and Deputy Chief Cull's leadership in using the National Incident Management System and the ICS Incident Command structure that we are using in this city to manage that disaster. I'm telling you, not everybody's using that. I think they should use it, everyone around the country, but it makes a difference. And it's really been your leadership and Division Chief Cull's leadership to help all of our staff who aren't used to working under such a structure to understand how to do it and why it's valuable to do it. So thank you, Chief. And I also want just everybody to realize, and something that I want to see continue, I imagine the council does, is again, your innovative thinking about how do we over time bring down the amount of emergency calls that come in to the fire department. It's a huge issue. We have stabilized, so to speak, our fire department costs, but the number of calls goes up 2% year over year over year, and that's not sustainable unless we bend that curve down. And you've been working on that with Amita St. Francis Hospital, with the pilot program, and others. So thank you for looking forward. We're gonna miss you, and you always have a place in this city. So I hope you'll stay here for a while before you move out to the western suburbs.
Thank you all.
All right. Thanks, Chief. Anything else, Erica?
That concludes my announcements. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Clerk Reed, any clerk announcements tonight?
Now I'm unmuted. Yes, a few quick announcements. I just want to, echo to Chief Scott. You've been a great public servant, one of the smartest people I've ever met. And then to Jerron Dorsey, thank you for your heroism in supporting the Jackson family. But to clerk announcements, I have two. I just want to be able to share my screen now. Google Drive there. And, that's not working. All right. Well, I'm not going to be able to share the screen, but there are a few important dates that are coming up. Let me note those dates here. Of course, we have a primary in Evanston coming up. So there's a primary in the mayor's race. There is also a primary in the clerk's race, in the 4th ward, and in the 8th ward. In the mayor's race, if a candidate gets 50% plus one of the vote, that candidate will go on to win. But here are the important dates, and we'll have this posted on the city's website and clerk's page and Facebook soon. So voter registration closes online for folks. My apologies. The last day to register to vote online will be the 7th of February, and that will be online through either the Cook County Clerk's website or through the state of Illinois, and you can find all of this on the clerk's page. The first day of early voting will be February 8th, so the day after that, and folks can, of course, register and vote all at the same time at your either at the early voting location, which will be the Civic Center again, or on election day at your local polling place. The last day to request a mail-in ballot, including for folks who are in military and overseas, will be the 18th of February. I'd encourage folks to request those mail-in ballots, well before then. Of course, the 22nd will be the last day of early voting, and election day will be the 23rd. There will be drop boxes available, from my understanding from the county clerk's office, during early voting and on election day. So if you request a mail-in ballot, you can use a drop box similar to the way we use drop boxes in the November election. All right. Well, those are the clerk's announcements for today.
All right. Thank you, Clerk Reed. All right. We're now going to move to public comment tonight. We've got 13 people that signed up for public comment. Per our rules, we set aside 45 minutes, no more than 3 minutes per person. So since we have less than 15, it'll be 3 minutes a person. Our first speaker today, I'm going to go with Myra Jackson, then Ray Friedman, then Carla Sutton. So welcome, Myra. We can't hear you if you're speaking.
Hello? The host has disabled the video.
All right. So Luke, can you enable her video? And then Myra, if you have the TV on in your home or anything with it, if you can turn that off, because then you get the echo effect here.
Okay, sorry.
All right, welcome.
Hi. My name is Myra Jackson. This is my husband.
Swan Jackson.
Keep it off. Oh, sorry. Okay. Let's just. He's gonna do it.
There we go. Now we can hear you without an echo.
Okay. Hello?
Perfect. Hello. Perfect. All right, welcome.
So,
Go ahead.
what to say? Sorry. I'll have my sister speak on my behalf. I'm kind of like, I don't know what to say. My name is Yvette Camerano. I just wanted to thank the council for having us, and thank you for this platform. We just wanted to say that as of December 23rd, the community, the businesses, your city employees, all of it was just orchestrated seamlessly. The effort was just incredible. I mean, we were all like just trying to hurry up and get the family what it is they needed and coordinate efforts. You know, we had people like Stephen Kabla come. He owns the Kabla Fund. It's like a GoFundMe page or app. And he came over and he helped us set that up. We had like family, neighbors of the family come and assist us with the Sign Up Genius. And then we had people like Officer McCrae, Captain Roach, Officer Jackson, just come on over and assist us with resources. My sister's suffering from a leg injury that she suffered in January of this past year. And as a result, she's not mobile enough to carry on and try to get things, you know, going. So I've become kind of like the spokesperson, coordinating the donations, coordinating the everything, really. And then we're just really grateful for Jerron. My goodness, like, you know, I mean, between Dear Evanston, Nina, and Heidi from the Tribune, and then Lester Holt, you know, NBC Nightline. My sister used to work at CBS, so she knows them all. But it was just really good to have everybody come over and just assist us. And we've got businesses like La Principal did a Taco Tuesday. They donated $2,500 from those proceeds. Pinto Thai is doing their fundraiser from January 5th through the 15th. Firehouse Grill has decided to help after January 15th, of course. So I'm just kind of reaching out to all of the area restaurants because I know this is a really tough time for the restaurants. And we're just trying to help each other. And I think it's going along really well. Jordan is autistic. He's 9 years old. He saved the family from this fire. And I got to tell you, he's just amazing. He's an amazing boy. He's highly functional, social, and he loves his boomerangs, and he's getting really good at catching them. And he's loving being at the Fleetwood Community Center. It's just been, he did not want to leave today. He was having such a great time. So I wanted to just kind of let you know, Reba Apartments, Dan Coyne, the Lincoln Elementary School, like all of them, the PTA,
the principal, Mrs. Cooney.
yeah, everybody was like, we had furniture coming out of our ears. I mean, we had the residents giving us furniture. We had some of the non-for-profits in the area wanting to provide and support. And as a result, you know, what we took in, we donated back to the homeless families that Reba Apartments services. And so I keep getting emails, we keep getting emails and just, you know, inquiries and well wishes, prayers. It's just been phenomenal, and we're really all overwhelmed. So
I am very thankful and grateful for Evanston.
Yes.
How they pulled through, how everyone in this community. I felt like I was living a movie, like I was in the movie scene or something. I just never thought that people could be so generous.
Myra, we're so glad that you and your family are safe and that your son, you know, got you all out. So appreciative of our fire department for responding quickly. This is a very, very inspiring story for all of us to start off the new year. So thank you for coming out tonight and speaking with us and recognizing all of those throughout the entire community who have helped. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I sent Luke some links and some backstory articles. The link for the Clava Fund. I don't know if there's any way you guys can post that anywhere, but we would be, you know, grateful if you could.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
All right. Next up this evening, we've got Ray Freeman, then Carla Sutton, then Jamie Robin Collier. Welcome, Ray.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. All the aldermen, mayor, city manager, and city clerk. I want to thank everybody for all their comments and all the good stuff that's going on here in Evanston. Sorry for the shooting in Howard and Western and the fire, and glad everybody was okay there. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I have on my mind. I haven't spoken in a while. By the way, this is Ray Friedman, 2nd Ward. So I wanted to wish everybody Happy New Year. I know 2020 was a tough year. Hope 2021 will be better. So one of my big issues, as everyone knows, I keep on thinking about this and it keeps on coming up again and again, is right now, public comment. So the last city council meeting, you voted for an ordinance to restrict public comment again, to shut off the microphones when people are getting rowdy or, using foul language. We need to spend more time talking about having this dialogue discussion, as is stated in every public comment before every city council. I want to thank Alderman Fleming at last city council meeting, said that we really should have a dialogue. And she's the only one who voted no against that ordinance. So, like I said, it's in every council agenda, right on under the agenda, under all the comments. It says public comment. So I want to ask all of you council members, Mayor Haggerty, City Manager Storley, what do you think is the purpose and intent of public comment? Okay? If we're going to have a meaningful public comments, there needs to be a response from all of you. Okay? There needs to be a dialogue, as some of us have said more than a few times before. And, thank you again to Alderman Fleming. It seems that you're forgetting the government was created for the people, by the people. And so I just want to say the decisions that have been made for the last 4 years, okay, can you tell us what decisions you have included the registered voters in. So if the registered voters are not included in decisions made or the approval of them, then you're doing a disservice to us. So I just want you to think about that. Appreciate your input, and Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Happy New Year. Next up, Carla Sutton, then Jamie Robin Collier, then Laurie Keenan.
Good evening, Mayor Haggerty, Clerk Reed, and members of the City Council. Happy New Year to your first meeting of 2021. My prayers go out to the families who have recently had experiences of death and tragedy, and I pray that 2021 will give them an opportunity to have a better life and more opportunities. However, my comments tonight are to urge you to support SB1, approval of the $500,000 CDBG-CV funding for rent assistance program to address rental and high risk of evictions and small landlords. In Evanston, I reside in the area with the high priority census tract 8092. My current tenant has been evicted by the courts as of February 2019. They have refused to pay rent. They have not been affected by coronavirus 19. And I think the city and the state is asking small landlords like me to take up on this burden of still trying to provide heat and water to people who have had no adversity in their life, but just refuse to pay the rent because of the current situation. They will not apply for assistance. So I'm begging you for these small landlords in this area to please give us first access to apply for these funds, and secondly, some relief with the current tax bills and things that are happening. I need assistance, and I need it now. And I appreciate the opportunity to bring to you my concerns, and I hope that we all get resolution that will be beneficial for me and other small landlords in this community. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Carlos. Next up, we've got Jamie Robin Collier, then Laura Keenan, then Kirsten Aurelio. Excuse me if I mispronounced that, Kirsten. All right, welcome, Jamie.
Mayor and Council, this is Jamie Collier, taxpayer in the 6th Ward. One piece of good news that I saw in the latest city manager's report is that the 2020 year-to-date expenditures are running below year-to-date revenues, so that the general fund balance is now over $2.2 million higher than it was in 2019, which would lead even a casual observer to think that 2020 will end with the general fund reserve balance increasing rather than decreasing as it has been discussed during the 2021 budget. Thus, the resolution 129-R-20, the second special item on the agenda, fund balance resolution, is likely to be unnecessary. But as it now stands, with the requirement to contribute $1.9 million a year for 4 years, it will lead directly to property tax increases. There is no requirement in this resolution for the city to reduce expenditures, to live within its expected level of revenue, and neither are there annual targets to be achieved before 2025. Furthermore, the resolution directs that priority be given to using the proceeds of city asset sales to increasing the general fund reserve, whereas increasing the contribution to police and fire pension funds would be a much better use for city funds, ensure more security for the pensioners, have a larger impact with the rating agencies, and can reduce the burden on taxpayers by at least 6.25% per year for the next 20 years on every additional dollar contributed today. In an email sent to the council and staff before the last council meeting in December, I suggested wording that would clarify and amend the resolution to address these issues. Make no mistake, a vote for this resolution as it now stands is a vote to increase property taxes with nothing to show for it. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Jamie. Next up, we've got Laurie Keenan, then Kristen D'Aurelio, and then Sean Peck Collier.
Hi, can you guys hear me? I'm on the phone, so
we can. Welcome,
okay.
Laurie.
Great, thanks. This is Laurie Keenan. I live in the 7th Ward. I'm concerned about something that I saw in the packet tonight for approval of a contract extension with Automated Parking Technologies. It says SMARKing to analyze and report parking data. On the heels of what Jamie was saying, I think we need to be very cautious about how we're spending our money so we're not having to raise property taxes. This looks like staff is recommending a 2-year contract extension with Automated Parking Technologies to continue analyzing and reporting parking data connected with SMARKing as the city garage is on the city's website. The cost, and this is $54,000 for 2021, $56,800 and some odd dollars for 2022, and $58,537 for I'm guessing the 2023 term. And the funding will be split between 3 units in the parking fund. However, I think that what we're going to find, I'm working with another client on a sort of a long-term longitudinal study, and all of the data is getting a little skewed because of the pandemic. And I just think it's it's foolish in the first place to be spending $150,000 on parking data. I feel like what we should be doing is reducing our parking fees for the people who live here and want to be shopping and patronizing our downtown stores. But I think $150,000 expense for data that is probably not going to be accurate given the pandemic is probably not a good use of the taxpayers' dollars right now. So I would ask you to please consider not approving the parking data report or analysis to the tune of $150,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we've got Kirsten D'Aurelio, Sean Peck Collier, then Linda Del Bosque. Welcome, Kirsten.
Thank you, Mayor Haggerty. Actually, I would like to cede my time to Carolyn Murray, who I know is also registered for public comment, but I feel that she has a more urgent need to speak than myself. So if you wouldn't mind and be so kind to swap Carolyn in for me. Thank you.
All right. So I will give Carolyn the 3 minutes now if she is ready and would like.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Are you with us, Carolyn?
Yes, I am.
All right. Well, welcome.
Yes,
Carolyn.
I am. Hi. Thank you, Council. I just wanted to share with the Council and the listening Evanston residents my most horrific racial exposure to a very disrespectful situation that happened on my Democratic Party candidate interview on Sunday, where we were hacked and we were, all of the participants that were on the call were hurled with insults of racial slurs and with also Trump rhetoric about the election. They were so disrespectful, they made personal threats to myself and my family and to some of the participants that were on the call as well. With that said, as Evanston so strongly prides themselves on being a community that represents diversity, within 45 minutes, there were approximately over 50 people standing in front of my house, standing in solidarity with the help of Carla Thomas and Allie Hardinan. And we were supporting the cause to send a message to those who don't agree with democracy and want to do away with racial inequality and injustices, that we were not scared. and I appreciate the help, and I appreciate Chief Cook stopping by to reassure the residents that he was working to reassure that our community is safe. I am asking now that the City Council and Evanston respond appropriately, because as I was speaking to the gathering crowd in front of my house, there were other residents that expressed their concerns and their story about racial situations that have happened in this highly charged political climate. I would like to see Evanston respond. We are very much aware of the heightened tension that is going on with this political climate right now. And I believe the history of Evanston is built on diversity. So there should be no reason why anyone in Evanston should feel unsafe in their neighborhood. I've stressed this throughout all of the years that I have lived in Evanston. I know that we can do better. And as residents coming together, black, white, all candidates that came out, we were standing together to send a message. And I believe Evanston wants to hear from the council and wants to have a forum to move forward, to be reassured that this will never happen again and we don't condone it in our town. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Carolyn. And it is disgusting what happened last night. I certainly don't condone it and can't imagine that anyone on this council condones what happens. This is a welcoming city, and we have incidents like what happened last night with you, and there's sadly, plenty of others that have happened. We still have work to do in our own community for those that hold hate in their hearts. And it's pretty despicable what happened. So I'm sorry about that. I appreciate you sharing it and what others did to come to your house and to show that kind of support. Next, we've got Sean Peck Collier, then Linda Del Bosque, then Priscilla Giles.
Thank you, Carolyn, for your words, and I'm sorry for the harm that was perpetuated on you. We all need to work to be more anti-racist. Good evening, Alder folks. I want to echo what Jamie has said. I want to commend the spirit behind the resolution that encourages fiscal responsibility and wants to make sure that there is a reserve for the general fund. But I hope the aldermen choose to reconsider this approach to achieving it. It was barely over a month ago that a majority of the city council fought to lower the property tax levy as best as they knew how. And I think it is important to name that the priority behind that fight was to help our Evanston neighbors survive the fallout from the pandemic, which is still ongoing. Recovery from the economic damage will not be swift. Rather than committing to a resolution whose wording demands a payment of at least $1.9 million a year into the general fund reserve without restriction or limitation on how this is achieved, I ask our older folks to reject this resolution and devise a new one that commits to responsible, frugal spending, limiting any property increases to the same rate as Social Security, if at all. We already have resolved to meet our general fund goal. If our current strategies are not effective, instead of committing to add more money, let's commit to more fiscal responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Next up, we've got Linda Del Bosque, then Priscilla Giles, then Andrea Liss.
Hi, good evening. First and foremost, Chief Scott, thank you for all your dedicated work here. I mean, there's been times where I've called you on the whim and you helped me achieve some goals with the Latinx Business Alliance and just other things as well, and working with you and recruiting new firefighters. And so just to work aside you was definitely an opportunity for me to remember. You've mentored me in some of these areas and I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. One of the things I would like to bring up is exactly echo what Carolyn was saying earlier in the public comment. I would really like to see if the city of Evanston can get together and create a forum by the city of Evanston, an awareness that these measures are not going to be accepted here in Evanston, no matter what what statements are being made, what race or culture. We're just not going to accept this type of behavior and setting that tone of excellence across the board. And I'm not sure what organization or what department or what board meeting or, what group within the city would take care of that. I know Dr. Ephraim is no longer with us. I'm not sure who replaced her, but her absence is surely missed. There's no one to go to, I think, at this time. Is that position being filled, but we definitely need to set that type of tone across the board that Evanston is strong and we're resilient and we're inclusive. And if that's an opportunity for the city to move forward with on a forum and invite organizations to bring together our community, I think last night was set an example of what is actually needed and what we need to do as we're paving out of this election period from the national campaign and going into this new presidential era. So if there's an opportunity for the city of Evanston to set that example, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. We've got Miss Giles, Priscilla Giles next, then Andrea List.
Thank you. Good evening. I received a telephone call late Saturday from California about Saturday's tragedy. And I urge Evanston City Council to keep alive our mental health department. I'd also like to say it is hard to understand why the city of Evanston is not providing permanent housing for our low-income citizens when money was set aside from so many high rises for low-income housing. The houses on Emerson and Jackson particularly, and some other streets were not condemned, yet the residents were made to vacate, eliminating housing for those low-income citizens and money taken from the budget, I guess, for other housing or that could have been permanent, if not that. If Evanston truly wants to maintain its reputation as a city of diversity, the housing should reflect its diversity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Giles. We've got Andrea Liss, and then the last speaker is Mike Vasilko. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for having me. I'm the applicant for the special use at 800 Greenwood in the C2 Commercial District, and I'm just here to answer any questions that may arise later in the meeting when my item comes up.
All right, great. Thank you, Andrea, for letting us know that. So stick around and we'll see how things go on if we have any questions from the council. Last, we've got Mike Vasilko. Welcome, Mike.
I'm going to pick up where I left off at APW. So I didn't get a chance to get through my entire list. So there's a line item in the bills list for $40,000 for legal fees, outside legal fees. Wondering if somebody can explain that. There's a $62,000 invoice from a group called Benestar, and they referred to it as it's an invoice for a contingency, a $62,000 contingency. Somebody should explain that. There's also a couple invoices in from a group called Dual Temp Companies for the Robert Crown Center, totaling about $7,400. Now, this is the group that was a part of the construction company or part of the construction group that built the ice refrigeration system for the ice rinks. Somehow they're being paid outside of that contract to do operations of the ice refrigeration system. I don't ever remember the city council approving that. And I refer to it because they do come up tonight in A3, where for the Robert Crown Center, the city staff elected to reject 2 bidders for the same service we don't find out what the costs were, but they were rejected. And in place of that, in a no bid situation, the city again goes out to the same company, Dual Temp, and effectively awards them the job of doing that work. Now, it's going to cost us $150,000 over 3 years. This cost was never budgeted for the operation, even though the building actually was budgeted to actually lose money, but that's a different story. One of the bidders that they was rejected, F.E. Moran, they're very well known in the community of construction community. No one explained why they were unqualified. They just said they were unqualified. So I'd like to know what the deal was that was agreed to with Dual Temp to come in after the fact, after the bid, and effectively be awarded this work. My understanding was Dual Temp wasn't able to bid at the same time as the other two because they had trouble with their computer system. So that considers, for me, that's a red flag that somebody who claims to be such a premier company for operating ice refrigeration has trouble with their computers, whether they were hacked or not, doesn't matter. We're putting something in their hands. The bigger picture here, though, is that the contractors, Dual Temp, owes the city of Evanston training. So the city of Evanston staff can actually do this work without having to pay the same contractor who built it to maintain it over years and years and years. So Evanston staff should be trained. The contract was for them to be trained by Dual Temp, and I don't know why that didn't happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Luke Stowe, I don't have anyone else on. Yvette Camerano spoke earlier with Myra Jackson. I just want to confirm that nobody else was signed up, Luke Stowe, and then I'm going to move on to the orders of business.
That's correct, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming out for public comment. We're now going to move to special orders of business. So we have 2 items on special orders of business. Just one comment. We do have a new staffer working in the city manager's office who's helping put these together. So there's a couple things on this agenda that there hasn't been a change. I just want to clarify. It says SB1 and SB2. It's still SP1. So we'll get all that cleared up, but I'm going to refer to it as we normally do. So SP1, Alderman Rainey, if you could move that item.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. SB1, approval of $500,000 of CDBG CV funding for rent assistance program to address renters at highest risk of eviction and small landlords. $450,000 will be used for rent assistance and up to $50,000 for administrative and staff costs. Priority will be given to households and census tracts most impacted by COVID-19 based on the Urban Institute Emergency Rental Assistance Priority Index. 5 months of rent arrearages, incomes plus or minus 80% in 2019, and renting from small Evanston landlords who are at higher risk from unpaid rents. Funding source is the city's CDBG CV grant of $1,586,370 from the CARES Act and must be used to prepare, and respond to coronavirus. Account number is 215.21, et cetera, et cetera. $500,000 is allocated in the city's CARES Act amendment to its 2019 action plan for rent assistance. I move approval.
Second.
All right. So this item is now up for any discussion. Is there any comments or questions on this item? Alderman Fleming.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions for Sarah. I assume it's Sarah. So I understand all the ways in which it's put together. My question is, on page 18, well, two questions, I guess. One is that there's going to be a sign-up sheet for information. It says people have already signed up, but I just want to confirm that people do not have to sign up in advance to be qualified, right? That's just a sign up. That's kind of more of a marketing, community engagement piece, correct?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Haggerty, City Manager Storley, members of the City Council. We started trying to inform people that we were preparing to launch the rent assistance program because it's really hard to reach people and let them know in enough advance. Our next challenge is going to be getting to all the landlords, and we're working on that as well. So they don't have to have signed up in advance. It just allows us to give them more information, and part of that is to tell them how the priorities work so that people who probably can determine that they aren't immediately eligible don't rush to sign up, and we actually manage the process more smoothly than as if everybody were to apply at once and we have to sort through all of them to get to the eligible people first.
Okay, so then my other two questions have to do with, one is on page 18, you go through, phase one with the census tract areas. And then when you go to phase two, you talk about, kind of expanding it, but you have a couple of census tract areas listed there in the scoring for phase two that are not listed as being eligible. So like the second paragraph says eligible residents from census tract 8096 and 8097. And then you go down for your scoring, you add two more census tracts that, from the way this is written, I don't think are actually eligible. So I want to make sure, it's already, it's a little bit challenging for people to maybe navigate. So I want to make sure it's correct.
Actually, in phase two, again, this is going to be, we're going to see what level of response we get to the first group. When we open up phase two, additional census tracts will be eligible, and those are 8097, 8096, and 8100. So they will.
3.1 is listed there.
That was one of the first ones.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
All right. So then I have my last question here for you. Has to do with the small landlords. I totally appreciate that, and just as Mr. Sutton says, our small landlords, need assistance. In my ward, obviously, I have to advocate that hopefully Reba Place will be able to help or participate, as they have, a lot of affordable units that they are not being subsidized for, and they are trying to work with tenants as well, but they obviously would fall under a landlord that have more than 10 units. So hopefully we're doing our best to work with them, because I know they have residents who are also behind on their rent, and they don't really have the money, as anyone does, to support those residents. And then lastly, I'm just going to ask if you can come back and give us a report on this. I know Connections does a lot of work, and I know that they are able to work with our undocumented in a way that if our city staff was managing the fund, they couldn't. However, as I've told you and as I've said publicly, I've also sent many people to Connections that don't get the support, don't get phone calls back. I know there's been lots of issues with turnover of staff there. So I would like a report once this program gets going to actually how many people are being helped. And I would love, and I don't know if this is legal or not, but I would love if there could have been or is one of the prioritization factors is for either age or how long people have lived in Evanston. We hear from a lot of seniors, we hear from a lot of long-term Evanston residents, and I would love for them to be able to be prioritized anyway, along with all these other criteria that you have here.
I don't know that that is a priority we could do, but I can look into it. We will give you a report. Obviously, one of the things that I also want to make people aware of is we are watching very carefully. Part of the Consolidated Appropriations Act was $25 billion for rent assistance. Now, this sounds like an enormous amount. I also kind of want to, Barbara Poppy, who was the executive director of the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness under President Obama, has come out as a recommendation that people be prioritized using this emergency rental assistance priority index that was done by the Urban Institute, because one of the things that has happened in the previous allocations of funding that have gone to rent assistance, only 8% have had any kind of priority for either lower income or more vulnerable people. And nationwide, most of them have used a lottery system and have been frustrating to a lot of applicants because they all apply and then they wait for months and months and months to get helped. And I would like to give credit to Betty Bogg and her team, Rob Anthony and his team, and also to some of the folks at the Housing Authority of Cook County that we asked for advice. We've tried to construct this so it doesn't frustrate everybody and we actually can start helping people sooner. It has a lot of things that are required by the federal government. It's not going to be easy, but we're hoping to make it more effective than just the lotteries that have been used so far.
Thank you. Yeah, people have not had success with the lottos, so thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Fleming. Sarah, I was really pleased to know that you're looking at that $25 billion, the economic rental assistance. I think it's called ERA. Yep. Are we as a city able to apply directly for that, or is it more for organizations like Connections or housing authorities to apply?
No, actually, there are the applicants. They lowered the number of people that had to be in a community to make them eligible to apply, but to 200,000. So actually the only city in the state of Illinois that is able to apply directly is the city of Chicago. The other applicants are counties. How those are going to actually distribute the funds, they have to tell us. They have to apply. But one of the things we've been talking about, Connections and the city, is having a discussion with Cook County to talk about ways to prioritize, because one of the concerns is it's very difficult. Suburban Cook County is a large and very diverse geographic area, and it really is hard to figure out how best to target funding. And one of the things that tends to happen is oftentimes priorities are given to the south suburbs for everything because of the the population overall is much lower income, and there is deep need. But as a result, what happens is in the northern areas, people don't get help and are more likely to be pushed out, which is going to reverse our attempts to integrate our housing in our communities. So we're going to try to give them our recommendations, and hopefully they'll listen.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm glad you're on that, because I want to see if there's anything. We have to be thinking about funds we can get this year. We might have gotten $4 million last year, but we need to get another $4 or $10 million this
Absolutely.
year.
One other slightly bright note, hopefully, is in that Appropriations Act, the regular CDB entitlement, which was $3 billion in 2020, was raised by $500 million. So it's $3.5 billion. So we expect we will get a somewhat larger regular CDBG allocation. Home is flat funding, and so we expect that'll be about the same, but we should hear about by the end of February what our grant amounts are on that. So I'm hoping we will be able to get them up and running faster than we have been able to with all the COVID money that came out last year that made it really chaotic.
Wonderful news. All right. Anything else from any council members on SP1? All right, seeing none, this item has been moved and seconded. Clerk Reed, could you please take the roll on SP1, approval of $500,000 of CDBG CV funding for rent assistance programs to address renters at highest risk of eviction in small neighborhoods?
Yes. Has Alderman Fisk joined us?
Yes.
Okay.
And aye.
Okay. So Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons?
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin? Alderman Ravel?
Aye.
Alderman Rainey?
Aye.
Alderman Fleming?
Aye.
Alderman Fisk? Aye. I heard it earlier. Alderman Braithwaite?
You're muted, Peter. He's an aye.
Okay. And Alderman Nguyen?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, Clerk. SP1 passes the City Council on a 9-0 vote. Alderman Rainey, could you move SP2?
Yes. Resolution 129 R20, committing to funding of general fund reserves by 2025. Our staff is recommending that we adopt this resolution, committing to reach the city's fund balance policy of 16.66% of general fund expenses and reserves by December 31, 2025. This is for action. I move approval.
Second.
All right, so this has been moved and seconded. Alderman Rainey.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to speak to this. When we were discussing the budget and we had citizens coming to us arguing that we really couldn't impose upon them a tax increase, having gone through and continuing through the COVID epidemic, and could not burden them with any more. And we got the budget down to a 1% increase by virtue of the fact that we took an additional $500,000 from what I call the rainy day fund, which was the reserve. And the argument was that that's what it was there for. It's a reserve fund for really serious issues. And our staff argued that it was something that really should be static and should stay there and not be touched. And I really disagreed with that completely. And so what I did was I went back, and I hope you'll give me a few minutes to explain what I've done here. I went back into all the old budgets back to 2014. What our staff told us and what we know in this year, in the 2021 budget, our staff told us that our reserve fund, because we took the $500 additional $1,000, our reserve would be $13,156,086 by December 31st, 2021. We would only have 12% of our budgeted expenses left in our reserves. And that is a far cry from our policy, our recommended policy level of 16.6% of expenses. And I really felt bad. I felt terrible because the impression that I got, and we were so overwhelmed with work at the time, I really didn't go back and do any studying on this. I felt like we were doing something very, very wrong here, but it was an emergency and we had to do it. But I went back and I looked, and you know what? It's been a long time since we had 16.6 in our reserve fund. In 2014, we had $17.1 million, or 19.2% of our budgeted expenditures. That equaled that. And that was more than 16.6. However, in 2015, the fourth quarter ended with unreserved fund balance of $13,102,358, which was 14.4%, much less than the 16%. In 2016, we had $16,286,158, which was 15%. In 2017, we had $12,460,935, which was 10.5%. In 2018, the ending 2018 general fund balance was $13,632,363, which was 12% of annual expenses. In 2019, in the manager's message, said that the general fund will end 2018 with a fund balance that is 11.6% of expenses. Beginning in 2019, we made an agreement with the city manager. We passed a resolution to increase our fund balance by $1.5 million annually, which is exactly what we're being asked to do now, and that this would bring the fund balance into compliance with this policy and best practice by 2021. Passing this resolution is not the answer. Now, I know Jamie Collier came and spoke to us tonight, and this is not, we can't pass this because we can't make this promise, just like we shouldn't have made this promise in 2019. We absolutely have to have a healthy fund balance. And I believe in that, but I don't think it makes any sense for us to make these promises and not keep them. We have to do everything we can to generate our revenue, to keep our expenses down so that we have a 16.6 fund balance. If that is, I guess that is still the best practice. If it is still the best practice, we have to do everything we can to work to it. We don't have to keep passing these phony resolutions because we know that things happen. Here I have this right here where we passed in 2019, or we promised in 2019 to raise each year by 1.5 million annually so that we will have in this year this perfect fund. Things happen. Let's hold off on passing this resolution and make a promise to ourselves that COVID will be over, that we will be in phase 5, and that we will do the best we can to drink a lot, eat a lot, buy a lot of stuff so that our retail taxes, our liquor taxes will sell a lot of properties and our revenues will rise. That's what we need. And that our tax base will increase, that we will allow for development in our community, very responsible development, of course, and we'll move forward and things will get back to normal. But until they do, we can't make a promise like this. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey. Alderman Fleming.
Thank you. So I had not done near the amount of research that Alderman Rainey did, so thank you for going back before my time on council. But my issue with the resolution, and I know Alderman Fisk, really, we supported this as we were looking at cutting, unfortunately, budget from last year. But I do have a concern that if we make this resolution, that we haven't put in like the steps and said what we're going to do to get to this point. So, it doesn't seem like a lot of money necessarily. And I appreciate that the mayor is so positive about next year, but I guess I'm not, I have to see it, right? We're going to have a new administration and hopefully things will change, but I don't know that to be true. I don't know. We see that already, we're having a hard time getting the vaccine rolled out. So there's a lot of things that still just don't assure me that this year is going to be, such a great year. And as Alderman Rainey said, and Jamie Collier said, I'd much rather us make a plan and look at how we're going to cut some of the spending, generate some more revenue that isn't so aggressive to our citizens who are already struggling, many of them. And also, I would be more comfortable saying, this year we're going to stay steady because we don't know what's going to happen with COVID. We don't know what's going to happen with the economy. We hope people are going to return to work, but we don't know that. Our schools still aren't even open. I mean, there's so much uncertainty, and to move forward to say we're going to definitely put this money in the reserves, I think it's a good hope, but we don't know that we're going to have that. I also think we should be honest that we have an election coming up. And so for us to set this and we don't know who is even going to be sitting in what chairs, I mean, granted, it's a resolution, so, new council members don't have to move forward with it, but it seems like something we might want to let them start thinking through, or we might want to set some suggestions on, spending and revenue ideas that we have for them and make this one of the suggestions. We want to, increase our fund balance, but to say we're definitely going to do it without a plan of how we're going to get there doesn't seem financially responsible. And I know others will say it's not financially responsible to not have, a high fund balance, but it was a horrible year. And, once this eviction moratorium is over, who knows where our residents are going to be. And so we might have $1.5 million that we need to put into emergency housing. We have, there's too many unknowns for me to move forward with this unless we want to add in here how we're going to cut some spending and how we're going to increase some revenues. I think that's a much more responsible thing to do, aside from just going straight to this resolution that says we're going to put money away when we're not sure where it's going to come
from.
Thank you. So the thing about a resolution is this is not a constitutional mandate. So, if the council comes in, if there are different people elected and they want to do something differently, they can just do a different resolution. But on the other hand, I think it's important for us to set forth goals and intentions and plans. And, I know when I started a little while back, numbers and plans weren't what I would have liked them to have been. And I felt like that they were not as forthright as they could have been. And that was very disappointing and disheartening to get into the position and not see that kind of information set forth. So I think this kind of thing is important to set a course. I think that Alderman Rainey and Alderman Fleming kind of ended up in the end expressing both sides of the equation here. But I'm persuaded that in order to be as transparent as possible, we should set forth what the intentions are, and we should be working towards these goals. So I would support the resolution.
Thank you, Alderman Wilson. Alderman Rainey, then Sufford, and then Ravel.
Mr. Mayor, we set forth the policy in 2019. We set forth a policy saying we will increase contributing to the fund balance $1,500,000 a year until we reach the 16.6%. And we've not done that. We've not done that. We had 1 year in 2014 when we had my point was, and I probably talked too much and in circles, but my point was we've only had 1 year of 16.6%, and that was in 2014. We don't do what we say we're going to do. We try to do it. We fight to do it. There have been a couple of years here where we didn't increase taxes at all, and we didn't have 16.6% in our reserves, our general fund reserves. So we have a policy on the books saying we're going to have a 16.6%. Why do we keep piling on these promises, unkept promises, when we've already got the statement on the books saying we're committed to a 3-year plan? The plan began in 2019. We're just extending the plan. Why? I mean, people are going to look back at this and say, oh, those silly people. They had a 3-year plan in 2019 that is the same as the 3-year plan in 2021. I think it makes us sound like bumblers. I think we've got the plan. We didn't live up to it. We're still trying to meet the policy set forth in that plan. I'm still trying to meet it, and I hope we can do it this year or next. And I think we will do it in the next few years.
I've got Alderman Suffredin, then Alderman Ravel, then the city manager.
So there's nothing in this resolution that requires anybody to do anything. My concern, and it's not even a concern, but we're not the right group of people to be making this vote. This vote should happen in May when the next council is seated. We voted on our last budget. Anything that we say has no actual authority behind it for it to happen. I mean, I appreciate the objective, but I'm going to vote no tonight, not because I don't think it's good policy, but because I don't think we're the right configuration of people to be making this vote. Unless there's a piece that I'm missing, or which there could be, and if there is, I'm certainly open to listening, but it seems like the right constitution of people to make this are whoever the 9 aldermen are in May of 2021. Is there a reason we should vote on this tonight other than symbolism? And I'm asking that rhetorically, like seriously, is there a reason that I'm missing that we should vote on this?
All right, so I'm gonna go to the city manager now, and then we'll go to you, Alderman Ravel. Erica, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So yes, I do believe there is importance in voting on this tonight. One of the reasons is that historically, rating agencies look at our fund balance as a measure of our fiscal health. So if we don't have 16.6%, which is our policy, it is looked down upon. It is not the only measure of our fiscal health, but is one of the main measures by which the rating agencies grade us, and then therefore how much we end up paying for any debt that we would borrow to do capital improvements. So the reason that we had the 2018 or 2019 resolution saying we were going to start on the 3-year plan was because we had fallen off. We had fallen off of having the proper fund balance, and the rating agencies were looking for some sort of assurance that it wasn't going to continue and that it wasn't going to continue to fall. And so we passed that resolution with the best effort that we could put forward, that hopefully in 3 years things would be good, and in 3 years' time we'd be back where we needed to be. And then we were hit with a 100-year pandemic. And so it is absolutely a reasonable time to dig into that rainy day fund. We would have liked that rainy day fund to be a little bit higher when we had to dig into it, but it wasn't. It's not the end of the world, but the rating agencies are still watching, and we're going to have to borrow quite a bit of money come October, November, to cover all of the capital projects that were approved in this year's budget, and that's going to cost us. And what is it going to cost us? It varies. You know, a lot of people will say rating agencies are going to be generous this year. They're going to say that everybody had a tough year because of the pandemic, and that's true. Many communities had very, very difficult years, but there were many that weathered the storm a little bit easier because the fund balance was a little bit bigger. So it's not an unreasonable request. It is putting forth a unified statement from the council that this is a goal that we want to meet. We don't expect it to go further down. We expect it to go further up. It may not happen tomorrow, but we certainly have an aspiration to get it there within the near term. So that is why we have brought this forward to you this evening.
Do rating agencies specifically ask for these types of resolutions as some sort of assurance of a commitment of a continuing body to put forth a policy that wasn't necessarily voted on by the members that constitute it when the next budget is voted on? I mean, that's the thing that really it doesn't even concern me. That's too strong a word. It's just like, this is already sort of a promise, like we intend to eat more vegetables, but we're not even the ones who would have to eat more vegetables necessarily. That's to be determined. And if we were to do this, or not even we, if whoever is on the city council were to do this in May, then it would have some actual teeth to it because they would be voting on the next budget. This group is not going to be voting on the next budget necessarily. But I mean, so I'm trying to just understand, if you're a rating agency, how much weight does this vote carry as you're assessing Evanston's creditworthiness?
Well, I will say, I'll start with this. It's better than nothing. If we were to do nothing and just, Hitesh has to prepare a lot of documents to provide to the rating agency so that they can actually do the calculation of what our rating will be. If he has nothing to provide to them because we've passed nothing, then all he can say is, well, yes, the council is committed. And the rating agency, obviously this is a resolution and it's not an ordinance, so it's not something that we can be bound to, but at least there would be something in writing that could be provided that said that we said to our community, this is important to us, we want to get there, and here's a plan on how we get there. Now, we may need to amend that plan. We could certainly amend the plan that we passed in 2018 and just tweak that one versus amend versus creating this new one that we brought forward tonight. But there is a framework or a semblance of a plan that is going in the right trajectory.
Okay. But it would have much more meaning if it were an ordinance passed by the next city council. Then that's real, and that's being passed by the people who would be able to implement it. I mean, I know that that's not what's on the table right now, but I mean, in a world where we're trying to figure out what would have the most meaning, that would have the most meaning. This has more meaning than nothing, but less meaning than that. Correct? Or am I oversimplifying? I mean, I'm not asking these questions like leading questions because I know the answer. I mean, I genuinely want to understand the objective that we're trying to achieve by voting on this tonight, as opposed to waiting until there's another council who can actually implement whatever they vote on.
I understand what you're saying. I mean, I'll let Hitesh also opine on the answer to this question, but my answer would be, you know, even if we passed it tonight and in 5 or 6 months we pass the same one again with a new set of council members, whatever the makeup may be at that point in time, I think that still shows a consolidated attempt for people to be on the same page with where we're going with the fiscal health of the city.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council, and thank you, Erica. Yeah, Alderman Sufford, if we are going to issue the bonds, maybe say sometime in May, June, we generally start the process maybe 3 months before that. And so, yeah, and that time it would count until we have the next kind of slate of council seated. The second thing you said, how important is that? And you can see that the 2 or 3 things they mentioned in their report, and one of them thing would be about the rating. And like I have in front of me about the Fitch and S&P. This is what Fitch said in their 2020 rating for us. Factors that could lead to the downgrade: lack of success in using new and augmented revenue sources and managing spending to maintain the operating performance stability and increase reserve to the levels in line with the policy over the long term. So this was officially there in their report, formal report from Fitch. S&P, yeah, their 2020 report. If the city experiences a large drop in revenue and fails to make budgetary adjustments, causing a significant deterioration in general fund reserves, we could lower the rating. So it is so important, yes. 2 things generally come up: pension fundings, the unfunded liabilities for our police and fire, and the other thing is the fund balance reserve.
Okay. Thank you, Hitesh, and thank you, Erica.
All right, we got Alderman Ravel.
Well, I appreciate the input from the city manager and our finance officer. So those were questions I had in my mind about, because it did seem to me that the commitment of the council to achieving the 16.6% fund balance is a pretty important thing for our bond rating. I guess my concern at the moment is, I guess I really appreciated what Jamie Collier sent to us in this very long, detailed email as we were starting our meeting. And that rather than saying that the way we're going to get to our 16.6% fund balance is by definitely contributing 1.9 million annually into the reserve fund, I like better the idea of setting the goals in terms of saying, here's the percent we want to be at in 22, 23, 24, 25. And with some language that talks about, this could be a combination both of, saving money on expenses, suddenly finding some revenues that grow more than we budgeted. And so leaving it open, not be prepared, obviously, to put more money into the fund if it's needed, but not say that that's the only way we're going to achieve the goals of the 16.6% fund balance. So I could support a resolution, but that was worded more in line with Jamie Collier's proposal.
All right, thank you, Alderman. Alderman Rainey, you were next.
Well, I was going to suggest, I'm not sure who suggested it, but that couldn't we just recommit to the previous resolution that it is our intention to fund the fund balance. I just think doing it again. I mean, I could just see Fitch saying, "Oh, here they go again. They're making another promise that they're not going to keep." But if they're that reliant on a simple resolution that makes a promise that doesn't always get kept, then I'll be glad to vote for it if that's what keeps our rating at AA. But I find that hard to believe. I'm sorry.
All right. Thank you. Alderman Nguyen.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've listened to this discussion very carefully, and I think there are legitimate questions on all sides on this. And Alderman Sufferman, I think your question about is it a symbol? Sometimes symbols are powerful, and I think sometimes they're just paper symbols. But I think that this question here is what is it that as a council we recognize is good fiscal policy? And we did have to dip in and into the reserves because this was a pandemic, but we all recognize, as Alderman Rainey just said, that the good policy is being at that higher number. But I think the value of going through this exercise is this discussion that we're having right now, and that the value of passing this resolution is to demonstrate to these rating agencies and to actually whoever sits on that future council that this is a goal. This is not. This is something that we value and that will continue over time through whoever is on whatever council. That this is good. This is good fiscal policy. This will keep us a healthy city from a bond rating. So. I haven't had a chance to look at this email that we just received, but I do think there is value in the fact that we've had this discussion. We recognize how important it is to our bond ratings, which then translates to virtually changing the cost of virtually everything we do in the city, and that the rating agencies want to know, do we really mean it? And someone could look at this and say, look, they passed this before, but we had never had a pandemic before. And the reason, as our city manager has said, that we had to pass it that last time was because we were drifting. And I think the point now tonight is to say we're not going to drift. We set that goal before. We've all been blown off course by this pandemic, but we're going to come back and set our course again. And this is also a signal to whoever is on the council in May that we thought this was the best course and that they should adopt it too. So I am very much in favor of passing this resolution because I want to send that signal to the community, to future councils, and to the bond rating agencies that we do know what good policy is and we are committing ourselves to getting there.
I was just going to add one more thing, which was Kate reminded me that we didn't actually pass a resolution in 2018. It was a motion and it was a 3-year plan, but it was never codified or approved by the city council in form of a resolution. So that's what's different this time around.
So now we actually will be passing a resolution. We are taking this the serious step of passing a resolution. Which we actually didn't get around to the last time, but now we all recognize that there isn't a one of us who questions that reserve shouldn't be where it is, and if it had been, as you said, city manager, we would not have had the difficulties we had. So I do see the value of doing this, of actually taking the step of committing the council, and whatever the combination is of the new council, they can look back on this and recommit themselves as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Ravel and Rainey.
So how important is it to have section 2 of the resolution, would it be sufficient just to say the city council commits to achieving a general fund reserve balance of 16.6% by December 31st, 2025? Do we have to spell out exactly how we're going to do that? I guess that's a question for city manager.
That's a question for us.
Okay.
Yes. I think there is some flexibility here for the council to determine how the manner in which we achieve this. This is just a framework that can be tweaked, but it was one that gave us enough of a ramp to not make it too challenging during any one year. Now, if we were to, sell an asset or, get some potential federal funding through, future disbursement, now that there's a new leadership change in Washington, there could be an opportunity for us to receive some revenue that we had not intended to receive that we could then allocate towards this, which would bring us up faster. Potentially. So there's some wiggle room here, but the way that it's structured just gives us enough wiggle room to get there over the course of a reasonable amount of time. But should the council wish to tweak it in any way, shape, or form, that is the prerogative.
Thank you. Lots of discussion on this topic. I don't know, Alderman Rainey, I'm sorry, you had your hand up.
Could we agree that we're going to pass a resolution, but could we agree to do it at our next meeting so that we can, like Alderman Ravel just said, figure out which of these sections to leave in and which to take out? I'm thinking if we're still, I'm convinced we're not going to be in this mess at our next, when we work on our next budget, but if we are we comfortable saying that we're willing to increase the budget by 1.9 million if we have to? Leave everything else the same and increase the budget, increase taxes by 1.9 million? I don't feel comfortable saying that. So that we can increase the reserve? That we really are looking at that possibility by making this promise. Unless we're just using this as a symbol for the rating agencies. And I don't think any of us, I don't think Alderman Nguyen just said that. I don't think any of us feel that way.
Thank you. Alderman Wilson?
Thank you. I definitely see value in having the opportunity to be flexible on the annual amount. So maybe what Alderman Rainey is suggesting is a good idea. So if there's a way to kind of recraft that section 2 so that we have some sort of flexibility on how it gets scheduled out, I think there would be value in that. So maybe we can do that between now and the next meeting. Would that be like a hold or a table, or how are we? Is this a special order?
Hold, just a hold.
Oh, but it's a special order.
Well, it wasn't
Table to
placed as a special order.
Members of City Council, give me one moment to look up the rule for the special order.
18.11 and 18.12.
Yes, under 18.12, at the request of 2 aldermen, any matter except a special order of business may be held over for consideration until the next regular meeting. We could suspend the rules and it could be held over.
I think we didn't suspend the rules to place it on the agenda as a special order of business. So it should just be able to be held according to Rule 18.11. There wasn't a majority vote of the council to place this as special order.
Okay, well, how about this? I will move to suspend the rules.
So it's on the council agenda properly, but we can suspend the rule and hold it.
And so I will move that we suspend the rules to allow for us to hold this until the next regularly scheduled council meeting.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, City Clerk, could you take the roll on the motion to suspend the rules and hold this to the next City Council meeting?
Just suspend the rules. Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin. Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
And Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
All right. So nine,
That was a good idea, Alderman Rainey. So I move that we hold it to the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Second.
Let's remember to work on it.
Sure.
Is there a second for that?
Yes, I second it.
All right. Seeing no discussion, Clerk Reed, could you take?
There's no vote on
No,
that.
it's just a hold.
Okay. All right. Suspend. Okay. We're now going to move on to the consent agenda. The committees met before the City Council meeting tonight, so I'm going to ask the council members if you'll take a minute and identify items that you would like to remove from the agenda.
A17.
A17, okay.
A2, please.
A2.
H1.
I'm sorry?
H1.
Wait, human services. Maybe? Let's see. H1, okay. Any others? Were there any items that stayed in committee that we should identify?
Mayor,
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor?
I was just going to say we probably have to remove A16 as well, and then because they both require suspension of rules and travel together.
Okay, A16's off. Alderman Rainey.
I want to remove the item regarding the parking study. I'm not seeing the number at the moment. Where is it? The parking study is.
But we just introduced that, Alderman Rainey.
It was removed?
No,
no,
we
here it is.
introduced it with an explanation.
Pardon me?
We removed it with an explanation. I mean, hold it if you want to speak to it.
No, I want to remove it to speak to it.
A6.
Got it.
A6.
A6.
You got it.
And also, the one about the ice rink, the dual temp, the sole source. Yep. A3.
A3.
Because we had citizen comment questions about it.
I'm glad you pulled that off. Thank you.
Yeah, people obviously weren't listening to Administration Public Works.
As well they should.
I know. But not everybody has all the time in the world like we do.
Exactly. Nor take the time to read the packet.
But they have more important things to do.
I'm
All
sure
right.
they do.
All right. Anything else that people want to remove?
Can you just run down the list again, just so we know?
All right. We've got A2 off the agenda, A3, A6, A16, A17, and H1.
Alderman Braithwaite, did you mean to say 15 and 16, or did you mean 16 and 17?
Thank you very much, Alderman Wilson. You're, no, 16 and 15, because they both
Right, you said
for
17.
action and introduction. Did I make a mistake?
You said 17.
Let's just be clear. A15 is the lease at Maple Ave Garage. That's A15.
So that's the one he meant, yeah.
Yes.
All right, so you want to do A15 is going to be off. A17 stays.
No, I'm sorry, Mayor.
What do you want?
You said A15 and 16, correct? I heard you say A17 and
I have off
Stays on.
A15, A16. Previously, you had said 17, but that's staying on now.
You are correct. Thank you for the clarification.
All right, so let me repeat what we've got. All right, A2, A3, A6, A15, A16, and H1. Those are the items that are off.
Yes.
All right. Seeing no others, let's see. Alderman Suffredin, you don't have to move each individual item. We're just going to move everything except what we've pulled off. Can you just move the consent agenda?
Yeah, I move the consent agenda for Administration Public Works with the exception of items A2, A3, A6, A15, and A16.
All right. And then could you also do move the consent agenda C1 and then move planning and development and human services? Anything else that's on there?
Sure. I also further move items PD1, PD2, PD3, PD4, and A1. There are H1 is off, correct?
H1's off, and then move the meeting minutes.
Oh, and I move approval of the minutes of the regular city council meeting of 12/14/20, item C1.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Great, thank you. City Clerk, could you please take the roll on the consent agenda?
Yes. Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin.
Aye.
Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
And Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
All right, thank you, Clerk Reed. The consent agenda passes the Evanston City Council on a 9-0 vote. We're now going to move to the items that were removed. Alderman Nguyen, can you just move A2 since that's the one Alderman Suffredin has to recuse himself of?
Yes. Item A2 is approval of BMO Harris Amazon credit card activity. The staff recommends City Council approval of the City of Evanston's BMO Harris Amazon credit card activity for the period ending October 26, 2020 in the amount of $8,654.16 and November 26, 2020 in the amount of $5,783.81. I move approval.
Second. All right, so that's been moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion, City Clerk, could you take the roll on A2?
Yes. Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin.
I abstain.
Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
And Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
All right, thank you. A2, approval of the BMO Harris Amazon credit card activity passes the City Council on an 8-0 vote with Alderman Suffredin abstaining. Alderman Suffredin, can you move A3?
I move item A3, which is a sole source contract with full-time clogger for ice refrigeration maintenance services at the Robert Crown Community Center Ice Complex and Library. Staff recommends that City Council authorize City Manager to execute a sole source contract with full-time clogger to provide ice refrigeration maintenance services for the Robert Crown Community Center Ice Complex and Library in the amount of $45,123 for year one, $45,939 for year two, and $46,755 for year three. The contract is for an initial 3-year period with the option to renew for 2 additional 1-year renewals. Funding for the purchase would be from the Crown Center System Repairs Fund. This is for action.
Second.
All right, so this has been moved and seconded. Open for discussion. Alderman Rainey?
I just wanted to clarify, I know there was some concern about why this was a sole source, and one of the reason this group did not qualify with the people who responded to the proposal, those people were discounted because they were not qualified. These people were hacked, and so their computers were not working and they were not able to get a proposal in. However, the comments at Citizen Comment were how could we hire somebody who couldn't get their computers working? Well, these people are eminently qualified, and in fact, they are the refrigeration company that maintains and have maintained for years the ice for the Hawks. So they do numerous community ice rinks plus the Chicago Blackhawks. So our staff is very comfortable with them, and they're very high quality. You can't get any better. Nationwide, they're known. And so that's why they were hired. So I just wanted to make some comments about that.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey. Alderman Braithwaite?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Alderman Rainey. And this is more just a point of information, and Director Hemingway. Our resident brought up the same questions, and out of courtesy, I asked the director. I don't think we need to go through the explanation again, but it does makes me feel it's necessary to point out to all residents, because I think there's this assumption that by the time it comes to City Council, we're not listening. But I just want to restate the fact that anything that you see on a council agenda is discussed in a committee. And in most situations, there's like 2 readings. So you have literally 2 weeks to weigh in on something that we see on the council agenda. And so the director did an excellent job making it clear to us why the bid was structured in the way that it appeared on the council agenda. And I just want to thank you, Director, for your explanation. It's just unfortunate. And I don't know if it was short-term memory or maybe just a slip, but there was definitely clear explanation on this. And the one comment that I also wanted to make, and I made to our staff, is that, coming up on this year and in the future, we really want to make an effort to utilize our local businesses. And I will start asking the questions just for proof and evidence, not in this situation, but for others, that we're doing everything that we can to advertise these opportunities for local businesses that are here in town. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Braithwaite. I would just add to, for the last 4 years, I've seen all the aldermen review these packets really closely and ask questions. And there are emails on the bills list and all of that. So I see everybody taking it seriously before money's being spent. Certainly, I know everybody appreciates, public comment and people raising issues, because certainly things can be missed. But I don't want anybody thinking there's just some kind of blank check that the council's rubber stamping, because that's not the situation.
You're right. The transparency is taking the time to read the damn packet, not going from what someone heard in a public comment. But
thank you.
Anyway, thank you.
And for those things that we don't see in the packet, our staff is there to answer questions of things that we didn't read in the packet.
Yeah.
So,
and that's what's frustrating. Someone made the comments in Administrative Public Works. We ask the questions, and you come back and make false statements at City Council. It's just, anyway, I'm done.
All right. So seeing no more comments on this, City Clerk, could you please take the roll on A3?
Yes, Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin.
Aye.
Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
And Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
And Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
All right. A3 sole source contract with dual temp clogger passes the Evanston City Council on a 9-0 vote. Alderman Sufferton, can you move A6?
I move item A6, which is the approval of change order number 1 to the agreement with Watman Group Incorporated for the citywide parking study. This change order will extend the initiation date by 1 year from April 2020 to April 2021. There's no cost associated with this change order.
And this is for introduction. Right. And there was a second. Thank you. All right, Alderman Rainey.
Yeah, this is another one of those where we had a nice discussion. This was a job we put out to bid over a year ago. It's a parking study. Of course, our staff is very smart, and you don't do a parking study when there's a COVID, lockdown, because nobody's parking. So we held off with the consultant, no parking study for another year. We've not paid a penny, and tonight somebody stood up at the citizen comment who didn't attend the meeting or maybe read the packet and indicated that why would we be spending $100,000 and some odd on a parking study when there's a COVID? Well, we're not, because our staff is pretty bright. And Michael Rivera explained that, of course, there was no parking study being done now. It's all been delayed, and it's a several-year study, and we won't be paying anything until the parking study is done, and it won't be done until we tell them to do it. And it's all being held off until we find just the right time to pull the trigger, so to speak. So just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you, Alderman. Anything else on this item? All right, seeing none, City Clerk, could you please take the roll on A6?
Yes, greatly we explain stuff. Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton.
Aye.
Oh, yes. Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Ravel.
Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see if I can see you here. Alderman Fisk.
Yes.
Oh, okay. And then Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
And Alderman Nguyen.
We can't hear you, Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Nguyen?
She's been excused.
She's muted also.
Am I fine to just say this passes 8-0 with no?
Yeah, I don't think she's having a she's here, so I don't think it's a technological problem.
All right, so A6, extending the period of performance for another year passes the Evanston City Council on a 8-0 vote. Alderman Nguyen was absent for that. All right. Alderman Sufferton, can you move A15?
Sure, and can I move A15 and A16 as one item, or do they have to be done separately if Kelly is here?
City Council, Mayor, and City Manager, you can move to suspend the rules on both, and then I think you consider them one at a time.
Okay, so then I move for suspension of the rules on items A15 and A16 regarding the execution of a lease agreement with Enterprise for the commercial space at the Maple Avenue Garage.
Second.
All right, seeing no discussion, City Clerk, could you take the roll for suspending the rules, allowing for introduction and action on these items?
Yes. Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton.
Aye.
Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
And Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
All right, so on a 9-0 vote, the rules have been suspended, allowing for introduction and action for A15 and A16. Alderman Sufferton?
Sure. I move item A15, ordinance 2021, authorizing the city manager to execute a lease agreement with Enterprise for commercial space at the Maple Avenue Garage. Staff recommends city council adoption of ordinance 2021, authorizing the city manager to execute a lease agreement with Enterprise Leasing Company of Chicago, LLC, for commercial space at the Maple Avenue Garage. The lease will be for a 10-year term with one 5-year renewal option at a rental rate of $44,520 for the initial year. The rent will be adjusted at a 3% increase after the second year. Pursuant to Evanston City Code, affirmative vote of 2/3 of elected aldermen is required. This is for introduction and action.
Second.
All right, in discussion?
Not on this one, the second
All
item.
right, seeing none, City Clerk, could you take the roll on A15?
Yes. Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Simmons?
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton?
Aye.
Alderman Ravel?
Aye.
Alderman Rainey?
Aye.
Alderman Fleming?
Aye.
Alderman Fisk? Whoops. Alderman Braithwaite?
Aye.
And Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
All right, A15, executing the lease on the Maple Street Garage with Enterprise Leasing Company passes the City Council on a 9-0 vote, and that was for action and introduction. Can you move A16, Alderman Sufferton?
I move item A16, ordinance 1021, authorizing the city manager to execute a lease agreement with MedMen for commercial space at 1800 Maple Avenue. Staff recommends city council adoption of ordinance 1021, authorizing the city manager to execute a lease agreement with MME Evanston Retail LLC, DBA MedMen Chicago, Evanston for commercial space at Maple Avenue Garage for the use operation of a cannabis dispensary. The lease will be for a 10-year term with 2 5-year renewal options at a rental rate of $180,000 for the first 3 years. The rent rate will be adjusted annually at a 5% increase every 3 years pursuant to Evanston City Code. An affirmative vote of 2/3 of the elected aldermen is required. This is for introduction and action.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Alderman Braithwaite?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I just want to use this opportunity to thank Mike Rivera and our whole team that helped negotiate this lease. I had a chance to read through the packet, and he did a real good job explaining the benefit of revenue that we're going to get with this long-term lease. So, Mike, hats off to you, and also I'm sure the legal department for assisting and executing this. There was one quick question that I had, Mike, that we didn't have a good chance to ask at AP&W, and I think for item A15, it was on page 309 regarding signage, and that's always been an issue. So now that the Enterprise is kind of hidden away, 2 questions, right? So for the Enterprise and MedMen, what are their options for signage?
For signage, they can keep the similar signage that they have on site currently. They have a blade sign, and they have a sign affixed to the facade of the property. They just have to go through the permit process for moving them from one side of the building to the other and submit their plans as part of the plans is that and have it approved.
Okay, I recall with the Hilton Garden Inn that creating a blade sign was a real serious issue. So either company, they both have the ability to do a blade sign. Is that correct? I know they have to go through the approval process.
Yeah, they have to go. Yeah, I don't know the rules pertaining to signage, but I know there's currently a blade sign that's for Enterprise, and there's a sign affixed to the buildings. They should be able to keep those signs provided they go through the permit process to move them.
Right. Specifically, it's what happens when they want to go bigger, similar to what the movie theater did. And what?
Correct. And in this case, they may be going smaller because of the area where the office is going to be located. The area is smaller where they have to work with to hang the signs.
Okay. All right. That was my question. And then something else just for City Council to consider. And this is just for consideration, and I'll do the referral. And Kelly, I'll ask the correct way to do it. So in our last meeting, we discussed the fact that the state has taken a longer time to issue the licenses. And I just think, we have a really unique opportunity here in town. Clearly, to my knowledge, we're the only municipality that has a dedicated fund to provide resources to our reparations program. And I think our hope and trust is by expanding their footprint within their business that we will see an increase in that revenue. One of the things that caused, that slowed down the process is the fact that through a lot of social pressure, the fact that candidates who applied for the social equity throughout the process, they were squeezed out. And so to our staff and members of council, one of the things I'd like for us to consider at a later date is explore certain conditions for new applicants to come through our pipeline, whether that's we're going to prioritize those that have the social equity as well as those that have ties to the city of Evanston. And here's the why is just like we've seen with PharmaCann brought out by MedMen. We've all read, certain things about MedMen, and now we have Verano. I just would hate that when we do open up for our licenses, that it's like all big businesses coming to town. And I think the whole reason for going through this process was to give an opportunity for, people of color, people who've been injured by the harm of the laws. And I just want to make sure that we're being thoughtful that when we go through our special use process, that there's something that indicates that these companies are not big businesses and they're actually the people that it intended to help. So that's it. And I don't know how to make a referral. Maybe I have to wait until the end of the meeting. I just want to make sure, Kelly, that I send it to the right department.
You made the referral. We got it.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
All right. Any other discussion on this item? Seeing none, it's been moved and seconded. This is item A16. City Clerk, could please take the roll.
Yes. Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton.
Aye.
Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
And Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
All right, A16, which is authorizing the city manager to execute a lease agreement with MedMen for commercial space at 1800 Maple Ave, passes the Evanston City Council on a 9-0 vote. We're now going to go to the last item that was removed from the consent agenda in human services. I'm going to ask Alderman Ruth Simmons if she would move H1.
Yes. H1 is, staff recommends city council authorize the city manager to renew service provider agreement between Amita Behavior Health and the city of Evanston for the provision of 24-hour crisis line access, mental health, crisis intervention, and various community outreach and education services at a cost of $104,333. The agreement is for January 2021 to December 31st, 2021. And funding is provided by the Human Services Community Outreach Program Fund. This item was held at the December 14th, 2020 City Council meeting, and it is now for action. Move approval.
Second. All right, thank you. This is open for conversation. Alderman Fleming.
Yeah, so I took this off, and I know it's been held, so Kelly's gonna have to help with the language, but in speaking to Kelly, and I had some concerns about liability, the way the contract is written. Kelly agreed, and so there is going to be some rewriting of the language so we don't have liability with sharing information. But it's not complete yet, if I'm correct, Kelly, and so we need to hold this again.
That's correct. So it was held once. We would need to suspend the rules to hold it again. But there's a motion on the table right now to approve, so.
Or could we just table it till the next meeting?
Yeah.
You could also table it. That's fine.
Okay,
That
so
might
now,
be easy.
Wait.
Alderman Rainey.
What's wrong with it?
well, essentially,
We've had this in place for years. What's the problem?
Kelly, do you want to speak to it, or should I? I'm not a lawyer, so I'm happy to have you speak on our behalf.
Yeah, I'd like to hear a lawyer speak to it.
So we took a look at it. There was information that we realized was being shared across multiple departments and possibly across other agencies. And so when I looked at the language of the agreement, the question was raised as to whether this would adequately protect those it's designed to serve, as well as others that may be involved with the individuals who the contract is designed to serve. And it was my professional opinion that the contract as written needed to have language bolstered for confidentiality purposes, for HIPAA purposes. So we've already drafted the language. I think it needs just one more final review from Ike and those sitting on the committee to ensure that they're comfortable with the way that it reads. Essentially, I just provided some more definition and some more safeguards against private information being shared publicly.
All right, well, I know there was an effort to, vote this down. I want to know, is there some kind of foot dragging behind the scenes to kill this? What is
Assume that question for me, so I don't really do behind the scenes. So my
I'm
concern
just
was,
very concerned,
my concern
wasn't this cleaned up first before?
Well, if you remember the first time it came to us, we had asked for improvements, and the contract that was in the packet was not the updated contract, so we held it. We got the updated contract. There was, as Kelly said, there was nothing in the contract that talked about confidentiality. So if our police or our healthcare workers, or human services staff are giving information to AMITA, we need to make sure that people's privacy, one, is intact, and also that there is consent, right? We can't just be giving out people's information without their consent, and that the contract did not cover that legally.
I know, I certainly do know that.
So then there's no behind the scenes to kill the thing.
Just wait. I was asking questions of Kelly. Why haven't all of these things been taken care of? That's what I want to know. Are the services not being provided now? They're not.
Good day. If I could speak to it.
Yes.
Good day, everyone. I go Director, Health and Human Services Department. Yes, services are still being provided through AMITA as we go through this contract. And as Kelly mentioned, there was some language that wasn't provided in the contract since we've had this contract in 2013. So we want to strengthen the language and add some more language to it that protects the people whom we provide services to. So I don't think there is a general consensus to shut this down. We just want to make sure that the contract is strengthened and that the language in it reflects the services that we provide. And hopefully when we present this in the next city council meeting, there won't be any issues.
I certainly hope that takes place, and I don't know why it's taking so long to get the language corrected.
Kelly, thank you, Alderman Rainey. Kelly, if somebody tables it to a date certain, meaning the next regular city council meeting, is that enough time for you to clean this up?
I believe my job on this is done. It's just a matter of having the health department review it and everyone be comfortable with the language.
So like that enough time? I mean, the next meeting's 2 weeks from today. Yes?
Absolutely, Mayor.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
Does someone want to move that motion to table?
So moved.
Table to
Second.
Let's have somebody actually move it. Go ahead, Alderman.
I'd like to, go right ahead.
I will move that we table this to a date certain, our next meeting, which is what date, Steve?
Next regular city council meeting. We've got a special one next week, but let's put it on to the
25th?
25th.
All right, so I move that we table this to a date certain, our next council meeting on January 25th.
Second.
All right, city clerk, Kelly, I have to take a vote on this, don't I? Or does
Yes.
2 people do it? Okay, so city clerk, take the roll, please.
Alderman Wilson,
Aye.
Alderman Reese Simmons,
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin,
Aye. Sorry, I don't know.
Alderman, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't see all the screens at the same time. Alderman Ravel,
Aye.
Alderman Rainey,
Aye.
Alderman Fleming,
Aye.
Alderman Fisk,
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite,
Aye.
and Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
All right, thank you, Clerk. So on a 9-0 vote, the City Council has tabled till Monday, January 25th, City Council meeting, the contract renewal for Amita. All right, we're now going to move to call of the wards. We'll start with Alderman Wilson, I believe.
Thank you. All right, so a few things for me. First of all, I want to thank everybody who reached out to me over the past month or so when I wasn't feeling well. I really appreciated that, and have appreciated the patience of people as I'm working my way through the emails and such to get caught up on things. We heard a little bit about this tonight, and I think we're going to, maybe be hearing more about incidents as we approach January 20th. But certainly these racial attacks, these other attacks that have been happening are not acceptable. And it's important for people in the community to feel supported and safe. So I know that our police department is there for anybody who needs some help if they feel threatened. Your council members are here if you feel like you need to have a conversation and you're not sure where to go. I know that some of these things are certainly coming from outside of Evanston, but even on a smaller scale, there are things that are happening in Evanston, and I think probably people in Evanston are responsible for some of these. Vandalizing Black Lives Matter signs, vandalizing stores. These things are not okay, and this is not what Evanston's about. So we need to stick together and need to be working together to make sure it's clear to people that that we're not going to stand for that. I also want to applaud all of the amazing efforts by our community members looking out for each other, whether it's this, we heard very powerful stories about the family who had the fire. We've also heard, at council meetings or in the community, a lot of terrific effort in just looking out for each other, people who have COVID, people who have, needs with food and housing. So I applaud those efforts and I'm really proud of what Evanston's been doing. I would like to make a reference to the Rules Committee for a discussion item. I and my colleagues, have been hearing what's being said about participation, about communication, and about the feelings of lack of opportunity to participate. So I would like to add a discussion item to the Rules Committee to discuss ways we might be able to do something. It's sometimes called deliberative democracy. It's an opportunity for people to participate more intensely for a shorter period of time. We have a lot of boards and commissions which require long-term commitment, and I think we could benefit from having these different types of opportunities to be engaged on a shorter-term basis for specific issues and things that come up. So I'd like to add that. And last, Mayor, you reminded me of this, but the last time Auburn and Northwestern played, there was a bet and we lost. There was no bet that we got to win this time. So I remember some of my colleagues and I had to squeeze into size small Auburn jerseys last time. So.
Yeah, I'm sorry I wasn't organized well enough with the pandemic and everything else to make the event this year.
I am only teasing, but congratulations to the team for a good season in that. And thanks to you all too. A number of you really helped me out quite a bit over the past weeks in keeping up with things. So I appreciate that. I'm grateful for that. So thanks to you guys. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Ruth Simmons.
No report.
Alderman Sufferton.
I've got two things. One, I'd like to make a referral to Administration of Public Works. A few weeks ago, we had a resident come and talk about the cost of sewer repairs relative to her situation because she's on a state road. And we have a lot of residents who are unaware of the possibility that that's an obligation of theirs. And I'd like to have a discussion. I've talked to Director Stoneback, I've talked to Kelly Gandersky, and I've talked to Erica Storley about ways that we can make residents aware that that's a possible expense that they could face at some point and how we can do an education campaign. One of the advantages we have is that we send water bills frequently, and it's just something that I think a lot of residents get blindsided by. And in some cases, it can be a real devastating thing. So I'd like to put that on an Administration of Public Works agenda for a focused discussion. I'd like to get an update on Northwestern's reimbursement of the costs associated with not just Halloween, but all of the protests that happened earlier in the year. And then I would just like to echo what Alderman Wilson said. In our ward, we have the vandalism of the sign at Northminster Church 3 times. There's what happened with Carolyn. There's the Confederate flag at Lighthouse Beach. There's a lot of other less prominent times of vandalism. And the thing that's always going to happen in Evanston, and I think anybody who engages in these types of activities needs to understand, is the reaction will always be the same, and it will be disproportionately positive to whatever negative harm you're trying to bring to our community. So I'm very proud to live here, and I'm very proud of the people who are vigilant and are standing up. And I just really want anybody who lives here or who passes through here and thinks that this is an opportunity to make those types of statements understand that it will never work here. And that's all I've got.
Thank you, Alderman Sufferton. Alderman Ravel?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Rainey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I didn't get a chance to speak to Chief Scott tonight, but I want to tell him that he has been an amazing chief, and we worked really hard to get him named chief because we were going out to a nationwide search, and we convinced our city manager that he was the one. And I know our city manager at the time was very grateful for all of our input. Not at the time, but after a few months, he saw that he made the right decision. And I want to tell him that how grateful all of us are that know of the trauma that his people suffered over the weekend during the week with the cases that they dealt with at the corner of Howard and Asbury. In the night, I heard stories. It was really, really unbelievable. And hopefully their families and our staff will take care of them. And it was really terrible. So thank you very much. Our hearts go out to them and to the victims. Secondly, speaking of Chief Scott, he provided me with a memo, which I asked the city manager to place on our agenda tonight, which did not happen. And that was a memo regarding an invoice for fire and rescue service fees for Northwestern University. Through October of this year, fire service and rescue charges amounted to over $600,000 at about $2,700 a visit. And I want the city to figure out a way to provide invoices for that service, either monthly or weekly or quarterly. We cannot, as citizens, taxpayers in Evanston, be supporting Northwestern's fire services. I want a fee for service, and I want us to figure out now. And on the 25th of January, Manager Storley, I would like to have a memo from you. I said before, I don't want a memo, I want an invoice. But I'd like a memo regarding how to invoice Northwestern University. It's our fire service. I don't see that we have to negotiate with them on how to do it. They pay for water. They need to pay for fire service. We all pay our property taxes. Somebody said to me, well, I'm a tenant and I don't pay for fire services. Well, no, but your landlord does, and that's coming out of your rent. So we need to get this job done. And we argued tonight about our fund balance. This is another way to help our fund balance. So let's get the memo, please, please. Thank you.
It is in process and it will be on for the 25th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Fleming?
Yeah,
have a couple things to remind the ward residents that we are having our second shared safety conversation tomorrow. So you can go on the website to sign up for that if you have not done so. Also tomorrow is Alternative to Police Emergency Response Subcommittee meeting. It's at 3:30. We're going to have a presentation by Thresholds. They're going to tell us about their, I think it's called Community Response or Crisis Response Team and how they work in the community. Also wanted to thank Jamie Collier. I don't know how she has the time to go through all of our budget line by line, but I appreciate that she has stuck with it and that she continues to come here and bring different ideas and questions for us to think about. Also, just thank you to the residents who showed up at Carol and Mary's house. I didn't know all that happened until reading the Daily Northwestern today. So thank you to the residents who showed up. And I'll just remind us that while we all love Evanston for all the diverse reasons, as a Black person who grew up here my whole life, we have not arrived. Looking at the voting numbers from last year, we had more Trump voters this year than we had 4 years ago. So for anyone who thinks that everyone committing whatever acts, I think Alderman Wilson was right that some people live right here and, they don't appreciate the diversity, which they have the right to do. But I do think we as a council have an opportunity to continue to make decisions here, speak to each other and our residents here in a manner that sets a tone, that all are welcome by race, gender, age, whatever it is. I know I sometimes struggle with that even here in this council chamber, so to speak. My other announcement is that Mayor, I know we had a lot to get through tonight. I'm not on really for proclamations and ceremonial things, but I was reminded that several years ago when Blake Peters, the high school senior, shot the 3-point shot, we had a Blake Peters Day proclamation or some such that I'm sure was he liked. I don't know if anyone else ever will remember that, but I'm sure he does. And I would say that Mr. Dorsey's effort of giving his entire paycheck, helping the family to physically move into an apartment, enrolling their son into the Fleetwood program is also, if not more important, and maybe deserves a day or something else you can do off of Zoom to honor that. I know that we have a lot of amazing residents who do a lot of amazing things. We don't know them all, and I appreciate them all. But this one being a staff who, as you said, didn't want any recognition to do this, I think is pretty amazing. And I know I've even had residents who had not heard of the fire or had not really thought anything of the fire, but then did go respond based on Dear Evanston and Mr. Dorsey's interview. So if there's something else you can pull out that you think might be appropriate, I would encourage you to do that. And then lastly, I think Alderman Wilson, I'm not sure the referral that you made, I'm not really sure exactly what kind of program you're thinking of, but I do think there's opportunity, not on Monday night necessarily, but time for us to hear more from our residents. I share some of your frustration, Alderman Braithwaite, with people who ask questions and either don't stay for the whole meeting or don't repeat the right information. But I think we have to keep doing our best and doing more to make sure the right information is out there and that we are hearing from everyone, whether we agree with their opinion or not. So if there's a way we can figure out how to do that, I'm open to participating.
Thank you, Alderman Fleming. Alderman Fisk.
No report.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Alderman Fleming, I'll just pick up where you and Alderman Wilson left off. I mean, the reality is the work takes place in committee. And I think the answer to lack of transparency is show up to a committee and read the damn packet. Like all the information that we make, and I'm sorry, I get real frustrated because that seems to be the new buzzword going into 2021, lack of transparency. And the day that any of us make a decision on an item that the information isn't in a packet, please call us out. And so, Alderman Wilson, I think as we talk to our staff about this, I mean, by the time it comes to city council, there is some truth to that. You have, in most situations, you've read through an item once, possibly twice, and then at city council, it just comes for vote, and it doesn't really give us, in many situations, time to make an adjustment. So I think if anything, and I may sound like a broken record, and I'll continue to say it to the residents, the work begins in the committee. 90% of that work that we do, the information that we receive, the conversations that we have with our residents takes place in committee. And that's the best place to have an impact versus waiting at city council. And sometimes whether you take 3, 5, or some even go longer than that, it's yes, the decision and hard work has been done, but that's not what I need to be talking about right now. So thank you all very much to our second ward residents. I'm looking forward to hosting our first ward meeting. It's this Thursday. For those of you that attended in December, we didn't have our city manager with us because of personal reasons. She will be there this Thursday. So I'm looking forward to you all showing up. We'll have a goal setting session. We've all had time to relax and recharge our batteries. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all at 7 o'clock. And please tune into the newsletter where you'll have the Zoom meeting, etc. Thank you, Ms. Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Braithwaite. Alderman Nguyen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I want to announce that on Thursday, January 26th, we'll have our January meeting of the ward town hall meeting. It'll be by Zoom. The Zoom invitation will be going out in the next day or so, and I do want to hear from people about in advance if they have topics they want to talk about, and we'll put them on the agenda and we'll have a conversation. And second, I do want to echo some of the other things that other members of the staff, other members of the council have said about these incidents that we're having happen in our community and also via Zoom. So it may be people far away. We know that's not who's slicing down that Black Lives Matter sign, but the fact that our election process is being Zoom bombed and people in our community are being targeted, I think is disgusting, and we all need to condemn that and support each other in this process, and to continue to stay vigilant on all of these issues in the community. And Alderman Fleming, as you said, it's here, and we need to shine a light on it and work to eliminate it. So I think that especially this week with what's happened, feels like every day is a year, but especially what's happened in DC, we all have to look to ourselves to say, what can I do? And I think that's what all of us here on the council feel is our purpose, is to what can I do to make things better? And so I'd also ask the community to step up and do that as well. And Evanston has taken COVID seriously, and we need to take these other issues just as seriously. So we'll keep talking about this, and hopefully we can all work to eliminate it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Wilson, could you lead us into executive session?
Yes, so pursuant to 5 Illinois compiled statutes, ILCS 120/2A, I move that the City Council convene into executive session to discuss agenda items regarding minutes. The agenda item is a permitted subject to be considered in executive session and is an enumerated exception under the Open Meetings Act. The exception is 5 ILCS 120/2AC21.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. City Clerk, could you take the roll, please, to recess into executive session?
Yes. Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Reese Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin.
Aye.
Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Ray. I'm sorry, I'm not seeing. Let's see.
She's an aye.
Alderman. Okay. Alderman
Aye.
Fleming, yes. Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
And Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
All right, so on a 9-0 vote, we are going to recess into executive session. Thank you, everyone, for coming out to the City Council meeting. Our next meeting will be a special meeting next Tuesday, January 19th is when we will next meet, and that will be primarily focused on housing, affordable housing issues. Thank you, everyone.